begin. You're in too deep to go back again. Cash is pay to play. You want more hits than lemonade. No, you don't own me. You don't even know me. This vagabond with a two-part path to the great beyond. Say genuine, a ground floor up I can help you find. You're a dreamer, call me when you're Bieber. And when they play it, you can't help but sing along. That's nothing odd, that's nothing wrong. 'Cause a good song never dies. It just reminds you of where you were the first time it made you cry, the first time you felt live. No, a good song never dies. Like a lover who won't back down and pull you over to the side, look you straight into the eyes. No good songer, no good songer. The first time they made you cry, the first time you felt life. No good songer. 'Cause a good song never dies. It just reminds you of where you were the first time it made you cry, first time you felt alive. No good song never. 'Cause a good song never dies.
Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another round of rapid fire racing action in the much loved and much entertaining Alpha Touring Change Season 17 as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC known as iRacing and powered by Syncmesh and Glass of Steel Photography and Design. The story of the season continues and we're made away today for round number 4 all the way to the American circuit of Barber Motorsports Park. Recently refurbished in real life and being reflected in iRacing, this circuit has been hotly anticipated for its return to the Alpha Touring Change calendar, and it's easy to understand why. Proclaimed the Augusta National of Motorsport, given its scenic view. Indeed, if you look around the circuit, you'll feel as though you are on a golf course. However, it's not going to be a hole-in-one for drivers today, as they'll try to put pace to putting as they roar the way around this circuit and take on what is one of the most challenging circuits in the US of A. And its core is a length of 2.38 miles. Now, that in itself is not too long compared to most circuits that you will see around the globe, if not in the country. However, what is definitely going to put a driver to the test is the 16-corner combination that lies in wait. Sweepers, hairpins, chicanes, you name it, this circuit has got it. And it's no wonder why this is arguably the ultimate proving grounds for racing drivers around the globe, as when they take on Barber Motorsports Park, they're taking on one of those circuits which is absolutely going to be bewildering at first, and it's going to see even the very best drivers have to really get themselves up to speed quickly. Do so well and you may find yourself at the front of the field and difficult to pass. However, find yourself off the pace and you may be lacking and fall down the field as the racing gets underway, and it'll be very hard to try and make your way back up with overtaking around here proving exceptional actually challenging. But who exactly will get it right in the US state of Alabama? That's what we're here to find out tonight, as we bring you all the racing action as if it were live in this post-round broadcast. Indeed, you'll catch up with all the racing action for round number 4, which occurred on Monday the 11th of May 2026. We're bringing it to you as if it were live today, this Tuesday the 12th of May. Therefore, we do not know what happens in the final throws of the practice session which is going on in the background, which we do have approximately 12 minutes of it left, nor the upcoming qualifying session, and most importantly, of course, are 2 races which are due to get underway in the near future, given the fact this is a sprint race round. But where are my manners? I'm getting ahead of myself here, am I not? As I've not formally welcomed you all to this broadcast, this post-round broadcast from Circuit Side, as you tune tonight in the 1A place you can catch all the racing action for Season 17 of the Alpha Touring Challenge, and of course on YouTube.com, and search for Paul Walsh Productions or PWP, and you'll be catching it all there each and every week. In the commentary booth, you have myself. My name is Paul Walsh. I shall be your host and commentator for this season. And in terms of our schedule for the day, times in Eastern Daylight Time, EDT, or Universal Coordinate Time, -4, UTC -4, as we can see in approximately what will be around 10 minutes time, we make it away into our qualifying session. 10 minutes in duration, only 2 flying laps available, and the drivers are definitely going to put pedal to the metal if they want to come out on top with pole position. After that will occur at 9:15. We'll then go straight to our first race of the day. The first of our 2 25-minute sprint races. Race number 1 due to get underway at 9:25, after which we'll be taking a brief breather before returning to the race in action for race number 2 at 5 to 10 this evening. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we need to bring you up to speed with the story from round number 3, and that's the effect of the championship standings, because goodness me, last time out at Miami, there was plenty to talk about. And as we can see, today is the 11th of May as far as our drivers are concerned, and as they do go racing in the US state of Alabama, well, let's just take a brief step back in time in terms of what happened back on the 4th of May at the Miami International Autodrome. We completed our Floridian doubleheader in the southeastern state of the US of A. In our first 45-minute endurance race with the risk of rain, well, the rain did come, and it came exactly midway through the race. But prior to that, qualifying and practice were both in the dry, but who exactly set the headlines alight beyond the weather in the racing? What we got to see in round number 3 was the fact there were some brilliant qualifying laps out there, including a monstrous 4th place overall and a Gamma pole position for Fleet Smith, who absolutely delivered. And we also did get to see a 9th place overall for debutant Jacob Simmons, who really showed that he's got the pace to be with the very best on this grid as the season goes on. We also had a very impressive 16th place overall, 2nd place in Delta for Carl Trost, and therefore he was very happy with that lap, no doubt about it. But conversely as well, Micah Hendricks set in no valid lap in qualifying, and therefore had to battle his way through the field in the race. Speaking of which, when we did go to the race, well, there were 2 drivers at the very front who ran away with proceedings, Matthew Meilleur and Wojciech Swirydowicz. They were in a class of their own, fighting for the overall and the Alpha win with it. Meanwhile, the fight for the rest of the top 10 was incredibly intense between Alpha and Gamma drivers, but there was also plenty of fighting for the top 6 spots in the Delta class. Overall, we did see Matthew Meilleur in the end bring home the victory. Now, whilst he did slip away a little bit compared to Swirydowicz in the dry as they came towards the end of the opening 25 minutes, it did seem as though the wet weather reset the race in between them, and suddenly Meilleur really came alive. However, a big mistake for him 5 minutes into the second stint, so in for 4 seconds back behind Swirydowicz, but he did not let that hold him back, and he chased Swirydowicz down, and in the end was able to take the lead in the closing stage on that penultimate lap, and then bring home his 2nd win of the season, his 8th overall career win. Meanwhile, in the Gamma class, it was Fleet Smith, who in the end wasn't stopping for anybody when it came to the racing last time out at Miami, taking that 4th place overall in the qualifying grid and pole positioning class, what was almost 1.5 tenths ahead of Chris McDonald. He took 3rd place overall on lap number 4 after an error for Logan McKinzie, albeit Logan McKinzie had an even bigger error when he came to the pit lane and hit the inside pit barrier wall, and unfortunately for him, that really sent his race downhill. But for Fleet Smith, it was all going upwards every step of the way, and took his first class win in Gamma for the season, and also in his career in the Alpha Touring Challenge by 9.2 seconds, and what a drive it was from Fleet Smith. But meanwhile, in the Delta class, we owe a huge apology, because we said on the broadcast last time out, based on the way we'd signed our drivers to the classes, we said that it was that Hudaka who had taken the win. It was not. And I do need to give a big apology to Corey Lobner, who it was not just a Delta win for him. He's incorrectly categorised as a Gamma driver for the broadcast. It was his first ever career Delta win. So Corey, if you are listening, we do apologise for that. I profusely apologise for it as well. And well, and the fact that in the end he took 3rd place in class, he qualified. He was the best part of 4.5 tenths off of Tyler Long's pole time, but he jumped into lead on the open lap, did Corey of the Delta class, and in the end made sure to fight very hard for Tyler Long. He got the lead, fell back to 2nd place to a degree at some points, then got back ahead, and after the pit stops, we got to see Tyler Long try to chase Corey Lobner down, but a mistake for Tyler Long caused him to fall down the order, and then a retirement on the final lap meant that Corey Corey Lobner would be safe and bring home his first Delta win of his career. And what a drive it was for Corey Lobner. And we look forward to that and plenty more from all the drivers up and down the field going into this round. Next time out, of course, we'll make it away all the way over to the west coast of the California Street Circuit of Long Beach. But that's the endurance race round, 60 minutes in a week's time. Let's stay here in the present now and carry on the story, telling you a little bit more about Barber Motorsports Park. As here we can see the view of the circuit. And a huge thank you as always to the ATC administration for the wonderful track maps and cheat sheets that come with it, albeit these track maps of course taken from iRacing.com simulator, and a big thank you to iRacing.com not just for the simulator enables us to host this series, but also the fact it does have those absolutely brilliant track maps contained within it, which then we do absolutely apply all of our data and information for these cheat sheets. Now what do you need to know about this circuit located near Leeds in Alabama of the US of A? Well, firstly, 2.38 miles in length or 3.83 kilometers depending on your preference for units, and as you can see at its core, this wide array of sweepers, hairpins, and also some chicanes thrown into the mix, and also you've got a variety of short straights thrown in there as well. Now, in terms of our ratings, tyre stress, 5 out of 5. This is one of the most aggressive circuits for tyre wear that we will see on the calendar, and therefore our drivers will need to protect their tyres even in the sprint races. These 25-minute races, normally you can go all in, but I suspect the tyres will only be lasting at maximum push 15 minutes today, so some tyre preservation will be critical. As for heavy braking, that's 3 out of 5. We do have a couple of heavy braking zones. We're to the turns 5, 7 through to 9, and also the run in towards turns 14 and 15. But beyond that, we don't have as many heavy braking zones as we would at other circuits, so therefore the brakes won't be as hot by comparison with the tyres. Overtaking difficulty, however, 4 out of 5. Around here, you do have the straights where you can open up some overtaking opportunities, but they are relatively short, and it's all going to come down to who's the quickest through the corners. But also, of course, if somebody makes a mistake, an overtaking opportunity may arise. But the difference being, of course, that with the multitude of corners around here being direction changes where you've got rights into lefts and lefts into right, attacking up the inside into one corner may see you on the outside for the next corner, and say what's looking a gold opportunity for an overtake may actually be a dismal chance to one instead. But as for off-tracks difficulty, that's 4 out of 5 as well. There's not much runoff area around here, but there's plenty of grass to go around, and with it tyre barriers as well. So if drivers do dip a tyre onto the grass, they may see themselves being pulled off circuit, and after that it's going to be a long journey to recover. Now pit entry is rather difficult because it is on the outside of turn 15, and our drivers will need to make sure they take a different line should they need to come into the pit lane. Although we are not expecting any pit stops for fuel or strategy today, it will be for repairs or 30 drive-through penalties. Meanwhile, the pit exit is just as difficult as well because it runs entirely parallel to turn 1. It is completely downhill. It plummets its way on the outside of the circuit as then our drivers will have to rejoin on the outside of turn number 2. And it will definitely be one whereby, if you find yourself going out that pit lane in the battle with another driver, you're going to be losing out quite significantly. Now, in terms of the symbology on our circuit map, we can see there, in terms of the best overtaking positions, it will be at turns 5 and 15. There'll be a good chance for overtakes there, particularly if you're able to go for a lunge up the inside. Although, don't say you can't go around the outside either, and we can expect some potential overtakes in the run down towards turn number 1, albeit that's all dependent on the speed you carry at turn 16. As for past instance, we've been here before a few times, although this is the first time we've been to the Barber Motorsports Park circuit since its refresh, and we have seen past incidents, particularly at turns 2, also 7 into 9 with a big check up there through the chicane, and also the run of turn 12 and 15, and let's not forget turn number 5 as well. But normally those incidents are more about drivers checking up at each other and a bit of elbows out racing action. As for the early traffic jams in our races, we can expect them definitely coming through turn 1 into turn number 2, also on the heavy braking into turn number 5, and also coming into the sweeping chicane at turns 7, 8 and 9. But beyond that, we shouldn't see too many early traffic jams, and the racing should be fast flowing as we always love it to be. But a big thank you to the ATC cheat sheet for bringing us up to speed with the circuit, and let's give you a quick reminder of the rules before we go racing. Now, car setup, this never changes. It's an open setup formula, which means our drivers bring a setup but they're choosing to each and every race day session. As we've got sprint races today, we see the races commence by a standing start, as is a tradition of touring car racing here at the AlphaTauri Challenge, and the grid for race 2 shall be set based on the results of race 1, but we invert the top 15 finishing positions. So what that means is the winner of race 1 overall starts in 15th place overall for race number 2, and we continue that inversion all the way down to the 15th place finisher from race number 1, who starts on pole position for race number 2, and those who finish 16th and downwards, you guessed it right, that's exactly where they'll start for race number 2. No mandatory pit stop requirements in the races, so we're not expecting anybody to come into the pits unless they need to repair the car, of which there's one fast repair available, or should they be naughty enough to pick up a drive-through penalty for accumulating 50 or more instant points. Should they get to 30, they'll be in the pit lane permanently because they will be disqualified. All race shooting, meanwhile, shall be conducted post-race. But with haste, let's make our way back to circuit side as this practice session is about to come to a close, and let's bring you up to speed with the championship standings coming into this round, starting with the overall Drivers' Championship. And as we can see, coming into this round, Wojciech Swirydowicz leads the way after 3 rounds. Now, do bear in mind, of course, we've yet to start to calculate the drop scores for the season, which they are typically 2. So Wojciech Swirydowicz right now does have quite a grandiose lead there, at the best part of 125 points. However, that lead is a reflection, it would seem, of the fact that right now he's been on the grid for all 3 rounds, where a couple of his rivals have not, including Matthew Meilleur and also Michael Polasek. However, let's not be unfair and not talk about Ray Tieu, who sits in second currently, the Beaver and D's driver, making it a 1-2 with his teammate Swirydowicz, and the partnership looking strong, and Tieu, of course, debuting in the Alpha class for this season, our previous Gamma champion from season 16, our inaugural Gamma champion, and he's definitely been holding his own, and right now he's definitely looking for a top 5 come the end of this season, if not a top 3. Matthew Meilleur sits in third, the S-Shark-G driver, that very impressive drive to victory in Miami, and he's continued to build the points there, and he's only the best part of 13 ahead of Logan McKinzie for Pennzoil Super Touring, who knows he's got to seek redemption today after the pit wall found its way to him at last time out in Miami. Chris McDonald leads overall in the Gammas currently for crop promotions, but it is very close between him and Matthew Shepka, and the senior driver, or Kirby Enthusiasm of Autosport as it translates to, well, right now he's only 4 points behind him. Michael Polasek was not on the grid at the last time out, so the Yellow Flag Motorsport driver losing a little bit of momentum, but we can definitely tell you he's back here today, so watch out for the number 1 driver, defending champion, and looking to try and equalise the number of championship crowns overall in the Alpha Championship with Logan McKinzie. McKinsie's on 6, Polasek currently is on 5 for reference. John Lauzon completes the top 3 of the Gammas there in 8th place for Beaver D's, ahead of B4D's Fleet Smith, who's fast approaching him, 12 points behind. And John Daniels completes the top 10 there for TC Racing Summit on 296 points. It's 12 behind to Zach Hidako, the leading Delta driver overall at the moment for TC Racing Ascent. And he's definitely been a bit of a category of his own thus far in terms of the consistency and the results he's been able to achieve, with Francois Schink for Sia ahead of Cooper Akers. And Mike Almeida and Damon Mitchell completing your top 15. The Crop Promotions driver definitely getting right into the thick of the action last time out at Miami, and we look forward to plenty more for him today. He's ahead of his teammate of Micah Hendricks, who, whilst the fact he's not had the happiest of season so far, particularly having started from the back of the grid last time out at Miami, where he starts towards the front or at the back, you can be certain of one thing, he's always going to give it full attack. Dan McFarlane, Tyler Long, Gareth McAllister and Mitchell Richmeyer complete your overall top 20 in the Alpha Championship, and outside that top 20, looking further down the field, we can see 21st, it's Ian Bertolucci for Sim Racing Grid, and a bit of a funny anecdote about it, the fact the original version of the standings coming into round number 4 did not include the Brazilian driver on them whatsoever, so everyone was going Ian who exactly, and it was corrected very quickly there, but he's currently in 21st place, and we can't ever forget the Sim Racing Grid driver. Jason Lynn sits in 22nd ahead of Major Mod Savai, who right now is only ahead of Evan Clavio based on result countback. Corey Lobner, 25th there, with his first Delta win on the board, some big points coming his way from Miami, and can he move into the top 20 today, with Zachary Bowman ahead of Jacob Simmons, and then we do see Kurt Smith, Fred Alridge and Lewis Gilbert completing the top 30. Outside the top 30, Christoph Onder in 31st place with Junk in the Trunk Electronicas, ahead of Nicholas Schwetzka, and then we do have Carl Trost, Zachary Leopold and Austin Dunbar completing the top 35. The Prime Time Motorsport driver we followed up with the privateer Eli Sasak, then we Christian Ost, Spencer Clark, Aaron Law and Alexander Gonzalez Green completing the top 40, with the Mexican driver making his debut last time out in the Gamma class. And outside the top 40, we can also see there, and completing your order of 51 drives currently, well, it is currently Benjamin Andrews and Jess Rakowski to complete those with points, and yet score any points in the overall Alpha Championship. It's Jamie DeJoux, Jonathan Lantin, Jalen Kuo, Jerry Barber, Michael Bowman, Joshua Bibb, Mark Darnell, Angel Soto, and Nathan Hempeley. Meanwhile, in the Gamma Class Championship, here we can see the points revised for your Gamma Class drivers specifically, and remember there are bonus points available for the top 3 spots on the podium, plus also bonus points for the fastest lap in the races in the class, and also pole position. And as we can see, Chris McDonald leading the way by 5 points for crop promotions over Matthew Shepka, but the senior driver definitely bearing down on him, and well, right now it's looking very tight. But it would be rude of us not to include in the fight John Lauzon and Fleet Smith, both equal points, 364 points apiece for B4Ds and B4Ds respectively. John Daniels sits in 5th place for T0 Racing Summit, really earmarking the gap between the top 4 and the rest of the field there, to the tune of the best part of 68 points, and right now he finds himself in a fight for 5th place with Cooper Akers, who's already at 5 points behind for Pennzoil Super Touring. Mike Almeida in the number 6 for Yellow Flag Motorsport. He's had one of those seasons right now where it's still trying to get into second gear at the moment. The Canadian driver known as more needs to be done here today, with Damon Mitchell right behind him on 261 points of crop promotions. And it's Sim Racing Grid's pair of Dan McFarlane and Ian Bertolucci who complete the Gamma top 10. Major Bonservice sits best the rest in 11th ahead of Zachary Bowman. Then we do have Nicholas Schwetzker ahead of Zachary Leopold. And it'll be Alexander Gonzalez-Green completing your Gamma standings. Then to the Delta class we go. And in the Deltas, it is a lead right now that stands tall for Zach Hodako. 84 points is how much he leads his teammate Tyler Long for T0 Race of Ascent. But both drivers right now looking to be hitting their stride. Although for Tyler Long, of course, that final lap retirement really gut-wrenching for the team when they were looking so good for a double podium. And it was not to be. But for Hodako at least, this season is definitely all smiles so far for him. Can he continue the momentum? We'll have to see. Gareth McAllister sits in third for Yamato Motorsport with his teammate Mitchell Richbine not too far behind, 20 points between the pair, and it's a further 15 points to Jason Lind for Gator Racing. Evan Clario sits sixth ahead of Corey Lobner, and Lobner with that maiden win in his Delta campaign launches his way into 7th place ahead of B4D's Kurt Smith, and Kurt Smith only ahead of third hour originally based on result countback. But both drivers, we know they've got a lot of pace in them, and they've shown it in qualifying, but not necessarily in the races so far, although third hour originally and Kurt Smith inside the top 3 of the Deltas in the practice session that's just come to a close. Obviously, we see Lewis Gilbert then sitting in 10th place at 128 points. He's only ahead and inside the top 10 based on result countback versus Crystal Ondra. And then Carl Trost sits 12th, the T0 Race of the Ascent driver. Watch out for him. He was second fastest in the Delta practice today for Barber, so he could be one to really keep a keen eye on and whether he can land that maiden win for the season. Eli Sussak and Austin Dunbar are behind there, although it's Dunbar ahead of Sussak by the tune of 28 points. And then we do have Christian Austin in 15th place ahead of Spencer Clark, with Aaron Lark, Benjamin Andrews and Jess Rakowski completing those in points their name, and yet score any points in the Delta class, as we can see there. Jamie DeJoux, also Jonathan Lantin, Jalen Kuo, Jeremy Barber, Michael Bowman, Joshua Bibb, Mark Darnell, Angel Soto, and Nathan Hempley. In the team championship standings, here we can see in the overall team championship, here's a lead that is building rapidly for Beaver and D's. They seem to be up to winning ways right now. And can they break the control that none other than Yellow Flag Motorsport have had for the last few seasons? And of course, their rivalry with Pennzoil Super Touring. If so, well, they could definitely become the third player in it. They came quite close last season, albeit they were, of course, a Gamma pair, John Lauzon and Ray Tieu. They do have Wojciech Swirydowicz joining the ranks for breakfast and dinner for this season. And Beaver and D's right now definitely looking to be a very strong contender. Croc Promotions, however, they've been very impressive. They've moved to second place. They've really been punching above their weight. And Pennzoil Super Touring sit behind right now. We see it in 4th place. A Yellow Flag Motorsport really yet to hit their momentum. They sit in 5th on 649 points. It's then the best part of 109 points back to SYRG in 6th ahead of T0 Race of Ascent, with B4D's Sim Racing Grid and T0 Racing Summit completing the top 10. In 11th place, it's Yamato Motorsport, best of the rest, and the best part of 90 points ahead of Gator Racing, with Provenchal Motorsport and Junkie the Truck Electronicas completed the top 14, and yet score any points. Breakfast for Dinner, Penguin Mafia, and Waifu no Laifu. And as the Delta Team Championship, where this is purely Delta drivers, and they pick up points based on Delta finishing positions, T0 Race of the Ascent leading the way, currently on 524 points, ahead of Yamato Motorsport, who are keeping them honest, and it's a further, what is, 99 points to Gator Racing. Then you do have a sizable split of the field there, to was 139 points between Gator Racing and Provenchal Motorsport. Provenchal Motorsport right now have pressure from Sim Racing Grid and also SYRG, but B4D's only behind SYRG based on result count back in 7th place, and it's Junkie Electronicas a further 10 adrift, and T0 Racing Summit needing some more points. They've only got 18 on the board. So that's the story of our standings coming into this round, ladies and gentlemen, and without further ado, it is time to make our way into our qualifying session. 10 minutes in duration, 1 warm-up lap plus 2 flying laps. Who exactly is going to put it on pole position here today at the Barber Motorsports Park in the US of A? Let's find out. And so it is go, go, go for qualified. As quick as that, 10 minutes begins to tick away. And as we do see our drivers all start to make their way out of the pit lane in an isolated, low qualified session, which means in layman's terms, they all have the circuit to themselves. They have no other driver visible to them, although they are all out of the circuit together. And therefore, there's no risk of contact. There's also no risk of any shenanigans with regards to slipstream or indeed teammates trying to get in each other's way on the way of other drivers, etc. And it really is the big levelling playing field. But speaking of the playing field, we've got 2 new drivers on the playing field today. One of whom you'll be quite familiar with, of course, and that is none other than Mark Darnell, as we do wait for him to make his way out onto circuit. And I do believe there he is. He makes his way out. And Mark Darnell returning to the grid for what is season 17, and we're very happy to see him back once again in number 83. And well, that car definitely looking lovely, the Gator Racing Hyundai Elantra, as he makes his way on around. And we'll always keep your eyes out for Mark because he's a quick driver. And in terms of his history, in terms of his best performances, as we do just take a little bit of a look through the accolades and indeed the archives of the ATC, and a big thank you to the ATC administration for an absolutely brilliant bot which retrieves all the information we need. Well, Mark Darnell's first ever season was, of course, the maiden season of the AlphaTauri Challenge, and he's raced in 231 rounds of the championship. And in terms of his performances, he's had 7 top 5s overall, 57 top 10s, and in terms of class wins, he's had 2 of them in his campaign. I do believe both of them coming in the Delta class, and so we look forward to seeing how he gets on today and whether he can potentially take his 3rd class win in his career. Crazy to think he's been racing for over 5 years in the series, but to be fair, he's an absolute veteran, and we absolutely love Mark for it. Now, we also do have the return of none other than Jonathan Fancock. In fact, I believe it's not Jonathan, it's Thomas Fancock there. I'm thinking of another Fancock that I do know of. But here is your number 132 driver. Made his debut, his first ever round of racing the AlphaTauri Challenge back in season 16. Only participated in 1 round, and then he took a bit of a breather, and he's back here today in his Honda Civic Type R FK8. And we look forward to seeing another privateer gets on in the 132 and wish him the best of luck. He had a bit of a good time out when he did join the grid in season 16, making up 12 places in his one and only race. And we look forward to seeing whether he can make up plenty more in the Delta class today. But we also do have a brand new face to the grid in the Delta class, and that new face is none other than this man, Tyler Langenberg, as he heads around there in the bright yellow machine, the privateer, the Hyundai Elantra, and he'll be in the number 91. And we look forward to seeing how Tyler gets on here, whether he can perhaps mix things up in the Delta class. Fresh faces, of course, a bit of new blood, and suddenly everything can be completely shaken up. It only takes 1 or 2 drives to make that change, and then suddenly everyone's going to have a new target to try and chase after. But as we welcome those drivers back to the grid or brand new to the grid, let's tell you a little bit about what we can expect here in qualifying. Well, of course, the big fault of qualifying will be that given how challenging overtaking will be at the Barber Motorsports Park, our drivers will definitely want to qualify as well as humanly possible. Now, it's not to say overtaking is going to be impossible. And you can see here, this is a circuit that has a lot of width to it. It is one of the widest circuits in the country, if not in the world. Although it doesn't quite match the width, let's say, of the Circuit of the Americas in the US state of Texas, where that circuit has been intentionally designed to try and offer up as much overtaking opportunities as possible to likes of Formula 1 machinery, less so TC machinery. But as we do see Michael Polasek make his way through the bends that many a TC America star over the last few years has raced at. Indeed, the circuit no stranger to the likes of GT World Challenge America, TC America, and also the Skip Barber Formula Series. Well, right now, Michael Polasek heads across that timeline. He'll set the benchmark, it would seem, as he goes to the top of the tower there, a 27.927, and where he goes on to his 2nd and final flying lap. But speaking of flying laps, well, we are waiting for a couple of drivers to come through, as Wojciech Swirydowicz moves all the way to the very top of the pile on 1 minute 27.759, but Logan McKinzie still trying to make his way on around there and pick up some time. But in terms of any what is qualifying bans or any instance that we should be aware of coming into this round, well, we do have currently what is no qualifying bans as far as I'm aware. There were a few penalties that were applied to drivers following all the racing last time out at Miami, but nobody comes into this round with a qualifying ban, at least who is competing. As we jump aboard here with Logan McKinzie for a flying lap of the circuit. So coming down through turn number 1 and using all the width of the road there as he now comes through turn number 2. That very fast collection of the left into the double right. And as he winds his way around the Pennzoil Super Touring driver right now, making sure to keep it nice and tight as he now roars his way over the crest of 4. Getting ready for turn number 5 in towards the hairpin here. And you can see it's a very short run and it's into a depression he goes. Braking there at what will be the 100-yard board all the way down to 2nd gear. Keep it nice and close. Drops to 1st, in fact, on the transition. And now powers his way out of the Honda Civic. Going through the left-hand kick of turn number 6. Now it's coming up for the triple chicane of turns 7, 8 and 9. This is where you've got to try and carry as much speed as possible. There's the markers on the left-hand side. That's to tell you when you need to shut the car in. Off the throttle, drop to 4th gear, and now straight line over the curb at 8. And all the way onto the brakes, they're down to 2nd gear through 9, and back on the throttle immediately as he slingshots his way out of the downhill right-hander and in towards the left into the right chicane at turns 10 and 11. And we flat out here as he mounts the curbing, trying to attack it as grandiosely as possible, staying within track limits, of course. And now McKinzie making his way up towards turn number 12, the left into right combination here, 12 into 13. But of course, 13, a corner whereby you need to shave some speed as he goes blind over the rise, and now in towards turn number 14 here as he winds his way uphill towards turn number 15, and he goes as wide as humanly possible to open up the late apex bend, dropping down to 2nd gear under braking. Now in towards turn number 16 to complete lap. And what's this going to be for Logan McKinzie? It's definitely been buttery smooth, but is it going to put him on pole position? Well, the answer to that question is going to be he was 10th, and this time he is going to move up to a 28.183. That puts him in 8th place, so not quite pole for Logan McKinzie, but number 4 driver there does get himself firmly inside the top 10 as his qualifying session is almost done and dusted. But who exactly He's going to find a bit more time out there as Jason Lin comes to the line. He does not improve. He stays 32nd. We do have 37 drivers in attendance here today, although I'm hearing that Micah Hendricks is unable to take part in qualifying due to a technical issue with the car. As we do see there, Jason Lin deciding to make haste to the barrier. But as we do leave him be, we see Lewis Gilbert come across that line. He goes on to what will be another lap. However, it will not be a counting lap because of the fact he's already used up his 2 laps. And Lewis Gilbert sets no valid time in qualifying. So he doesn't get it right. And we are just waiting out for what is Gareth McAllister to complete his final flying lap. Thomas Fancock has completed his laps. He'll be starting 34th here today at best. And John Daniels has not set any valid time, so he'll be starting 35th. Micah Hendricks, they can't get the car out. They will be starting at the back of the field. So it's going to be another difficult day for him. He's making a habit of starting from the back and coming through. But to be fair, he gives us plenty of entertainment when he does so. And McAllister comes into the pit lane. So he's not happy the way it's gone for you, Matthew Motorsports. And right now he'll be thinking to himself, okay, it's not worked out in qualified. I'll have to make it up in the race. He heads down pit road. But as he does so, Logan McKinzie calling on down, doing a bit of reconnaissance here as he goes around, trying to see where the rubber is. And, well, the fastest time of the session then. Wojciech Swirydowicz, 1 minute 27.694, 6.5 hundredths faster than Michael Polasek. And Matthew Meilleur takes 3rd place. And then you've got Damon Mitchell, the season best qualifying performance thus far. And, well, it's a very impressive lap from Damon Mitchell, no doubt about it, taking 4th on the grid and Gamma pole position. And that was by 7 hundredths ahead of none other than what was the machinery of, I do believe, Fleet Smith. So that'll be interesting there to see them on the 2nd and 3rd row with Ray Tieu 6th place on the grid. And then we will have Dan McFarlane, 7th, just ahead of Logan McKinzie. Ian Bertolucci and Franz Washington will complete the top 10. Bertolucci doing very well to make his way into the top 10 of this qualified session. Mike Almeida will be 11th place, and then only 8 thousandths behind him will be your Delta pole sitter, Kurt Smith. Well done to him. That's a brilliant pole position. His first of the season in the Delta class. Fred Alrigi was the 2nd fastest in Delta, but was 5 places behind in 17th. But what's intriguing is the fact that in the end, the gap from Smith to Al Ridgely was 3/10. That is a huge gap when you consider how tight this field is spread. So I think that's going to be a bit of a worry there for Al Ridgely. Although he has got 2 Gammas, McDonald and Bowman, 27 and Tyler Long, and Corinne Lobler not too far behind. So our Delta winner from last out at Miami started 4th in class, 21st overall. But Kurt Smith may have put himself in his own postcode. But remember, we've got 2 races here today, not 1, as we do see Thomas Fancock making his way on around here, still using the time available. And we do have overtime currently in this qualifying session in terms of the fact everyone has completed their qualifying session theoretically, but due to the fact that Micah Hendricks has not made his way out, the 10 minutes will run its distance in case he is able to get out of the circuit. So therefore, it just gives our drivers a little bit of extra time here. Unexpected extra time, you could say, but of course, it does mean that for drivers who haven't qualified as well, it gives them time to have a think, do some analysis of what went wrong. And those who did qualify well, they give themselves a bit more of a comfort break. Although, if I know some of our faster drivers out there, such as Michael Polasek and Matthew Meilleur, even though they are right towards the front of the field, they'll accept nothing else other than pole positions. That's always going to be a bit of a fault for them, as we do see Fancock coming across line then as well, 3-2 Honda. And in terms of the car that seems to be the strongest around here, well, we have a top 3 of Hondas, then it's the 2 Audi RS3 LMS Gen 2 Evo cars. And so then we do have what is another Honda, followed by the Hyundais. It seems as though the Hyundais right now, not quite on the pace they've previously been. Of course, the Hyundai Veloster, the jack of all trades cars, we always like to say. The Elantra, meanwhile, the one lap pace king, but the tyre shredder as well. So it is going to be very interesting to see how they all click together out there over our 2 races, and who exactly is going to be able to manage the car the best. Now, in terms of the weather conditions here today, as we show you on the right-hand side of your screen, we do have a relatively warm track surface, 91 degrees Fahrenheit, ambient 73 degrees Fahrenheit, and we've got a bit of wind as well, 11 mile per hour wind across the circuit, so it's a relatively warm track. That could be a big factor here, particularly with the humidity factor applied as well, 75%. This could be one where tyre life becomes a very important part of the story, even right from the start. I suspect the tyres at full push will last the best part of around 15 minutes or so. There's going to be a 10-minute window which our drivers will need to preserve the tyres on. But with qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for us to make our way to the grid for our one and only first race of the day, because we've got 2 of them, of course, but we can only start with 1. And coming up first is sprint race number 1 at 25 minutes in duration, and it is going to be an exciting one at that. Because our drivers make the way to the grid, this is how they'll line up for the first of 2 races in the sprint race round for round number 4 of season 17 of the AlphaTauri Challenge, powered by Syncmesh and Glass of Steel Photography and Design, brought to you, of course, on iRacing. And on pole position today, it is Wojciech Swirydowicz of Beaver D's. He'll be joined on the front row of the grid by his long-standing rival of Michael Polasek. The Yellow Flag Motorsport driver missed out by 63 thousandths in qualifying, but can he pip Swirydowicz to the post in the race? Matthew Meilleur will try to do the same there for SRG starting 3rd. Remember, starting on the second row is no indicator that he'll be stuck there for too long. Damon Mitchell, with a season-best qualified performance, so Crop Promotion starts fourth place. Can he make it a Gamma win today? He'll be starting there just ahead of B4D's Fleet Smith, and then we do see behind him in the number 13, the number 96 of Ray Tieu. The B4D's driver in the end, not quite on the pace to be on row number 2, but definitely just able to sneak ahead of Sim Racing Grid's Dan McFarlane, and there'll be Logan McKinzie starting 8th for Pennzoil Super Touring. Ian Bertolucci at 9th on the grid for Sim Racing Grid. He was in the end only 6 thousandths faster than the machinery of Franz Wojciech for Curb Your Enthusiasm Autosports, and then outside that top 10, not to be forgot about in 11th place, Mike D'Almeida, and we can see just alongside him the Delta pole sitter for B4D's Kurt Smith there with a great qualifying lap. Now will that translate into a first win of the season for him? John Lauzon starts 13th for B4D's ahead of Cooper Akers for Pennzoil Super Touring, and then we do have Matt Shepka for Sia just ahead of Zachary Leopold for Pennzoil Super Touring, and number 72 drivers definitely had one of those seasons thus far where things have not quite worked out the way he's wanted them to. And Leopold today will be hoping that this is not going to be another day where it all ends up in the wall, unlike, say, what was St. Petersburg, and instead it all goes a bit better for him. Fred Ritchie starts in second place in the Deltas for SGRG, ahead of Chris McDonald for Crop Promotions. Then we do have Zachary Bowman for Yellow Flag Motorsport, and Tyler Long for TC Racing Ascent, completing that top 20. Outside the top 20, in 21st place, Corey Lobner there, starting full for the Delta drivers, just ahead of Major Monsavai for TC Racing Summit. The gap between the 2 and 4 thousandths. There was a further, 12 thousandths to Evan Clavio, starts 23rd. The Sim Racing Grid trial will be joined on the 12th row of the grid by T0 Racing Ascent Zach Hidako. And then we do have Christopher Ondra starting 25th for Junk in the Trunk Electronicas, ahead of UMAT Motorsports Gareth McAllister. Nicholas Shvedska starts in at 27th for Shvedska Racing, ahead of Mark Darnell for Gator Racing. And well, we look forward to seeing how Darnell moves forward from there, starting in what will be another 9th place in the Delta class and completing the top 30. It'll be Mitchell Richmeyer for UMAT Motorsport and C0 Racers against Carl Trost. And we do see 31st on the grid, Tyler Langenberg for the Privateer on his debut, head of Austin Dunbar for Prodchild Motorsports, and then it will be on row at number 17, Jason Lynn for Gator Racing ahead of the Privateer Thomas Fancock, and then not saying lap times, they will start as follows. 35th, Micah Hendricks for Crop Promotions ahead of John Daniels for T0 Racing Summit, and Lewis Gilbert for Gator Racing completes the starting order of 37 cars, and we do believe that Micah Hendricks still having technical issues with the car, may not be making it to the grid in this race. Indeed, will have to start from the pit lane if he can. But the biggest shot there, Carl Trost starting 30th. That's not the way he wanted it to go whatsoever. But qualified, and the grid is complete, ladies and gentlemen. It's now trying to put pace to the pudding as our drivers all get set. The lights go on, and for the first time today, here in the state of Alabama, it's lights out and away we go for what will be 25 minutes of racing as they roar the way down towards turn 1. It's going to be a good start there for Wojciech Swirydowicz. They head into that braking zone, and Michael Polasek trying to look round the outside. Doesn't make it work out. Further back, Logan McKinzie already being swarmed there by David Mitchell and Ian Bertolucci. Well, Fleet Smith has jumped ahead of Dan McFarlane. David Mitchell has dropped down several places since the start there. It's worth noting. As meanwhile, Zachary Leopold too wide here with Matthew Shepka, but they've all made the way for the opening couple of corners. Well done to everyone as they now roar the way up towards turn 5, the first major overtaking zone, and it's going to be Logan McKinzie having to go defensive there versus Mitchell, who's trying to come back as quickly as he can. Further back, third out originally. And going side by side here as they come down through the hairpin. And well, that's in the fight there with Chris McDonald and Major Monsavai trying to poke his nose into the mix. And McDonald gets clear as Tyler Long, he's had a lightning start, but he's got Evan Clavio and Zach Hidako for company. And here they go in towards the turn 7, 8, 9, 10 chicane as they roar the way down through the left, right, left. It's going to be very tight here. That's based on your camera, but it's right, left, right actually from our driver's perspective. And we'll throw down Ridgey, hold off Major Monsavai at the moment. Back to the front of the field, Wojciech Swirydowicz storms his way through the uphill chicane as they come now down into turns 12 and 13. Well, you see everyone coming down for a brief moment. Logan McKinzie still trying to poke and probe there versus Dan McFarlane, and David Mitchell just watching on behind. But further down the field, Mitchell Richmeyer, he stays in the long line here as well, tucking in behind Shvedska, and we'll try to make some progress as Gareth McAllister's gone very wide there, taking a bollard with him, and that's going to give places to Lewis Gilbert and Tyler Langenberg. Langenberg up now into 8th place in the Delta class. He's had a good start as Langenberg. How much further can he go? We'll have to see. But as they weave their way towards the end of the open lap, Wojciech Swirydowicz leads onto lap 2, ahead of Michael Polasek, followed by Matthew Meilleur. Then we do have Fleet Smith leading in the Gammas right now, full place, ahead of Dan McFarlane, followed by Logan McKinzie, David Mitchell, the pole sitter in class. He's fallen back to a degree, but he's still ahead of Ian Bertolucci. And then we do have Ray Tieu and Franz Wojciech completing the top 10. Best 11th place is John Lauzon, and Delta leader is behind him, but Kurt Smith. And well, what a start to this race it's been from Kurt Smith. Started on pole, and right now has not let a place go. And well, can he hold on all the way to the very end as he makes his way down towards turn number 5? And we'll have to wait and see, as I do believe there's a tribute to what is Spaceballs on the back of that car, though don't quote me, I think it says "We Break for No" on the back of it when I took a look, although I may be getting it confused with another car with very similar livery out there. But as he heads onwards, I think in fact it's Fleet Smith's car there that I'm thinking of as he comes down. And yes, you can see it on the rear of the car when you get close enough, although these cameras won't be getting close enough for the time being. And if he goes any quicker, he'll be going into Plaid. But meanwhile, going into turn number 9, it's going to be Zach Hadarko on the inside of Corey Lobner. Lovely move there for the number 36 Honda, and he'll hold off Lobner as John Daniels now tries to get involved. And can Daniels find a way to support his TC Racing teammate? Well, the answer will be no at this time, as Daniels staying close here as we ride aboard with your number 2 driver. And, well, he's not just number 2 in the order of the 2 teammates, but he's number 2 in terms of his car number as well. And going all the way down through 13 to 14 here. You can see it's completely blind as they make the way over in towards 14 now. And that's what makes it so difficult here, particularly when you're following another car as well, because your visibility is even more restricted than it already was. So, therefore, Daniels just having to try and stay nice and close, as behind Langenberg has found his way past Gilbert, from what we understand. We look back, there they are fighting each other as they come out the corner. Ty Langenberg has got the move done initially, but will he be clear in towards turn number 1? The answer will be yes. So Langenberg now up into 7th place in Delta. He's doing a great job so far, is Tyler. Looking forward to seeing whether he can chase down Lobner and Hadarko. Can he take a top 5 in his debut race? Well, if so, that'd be absolutely huge for him. That'd be a huge confidence boost, particularly when you're brand new to a grid. A huge grid, and a lot of these drivers, of course, have been around for the best part of 5 years of racing. But as they make the way onwards, and our cameraman there at the post have difficulty staying up to speed with everyone. Look a bit further back here to Crystal Ondra, battling with Mitchell Richmeyer. Richmeyer goes very defensive under braking there to turn 5. Ondra, I think, just trying to look around the outside there, see if he can get into the head of the Yamaha Motorsport driver. Well, he's definitely done that. What he's also done is outfoxed himself under braking, and Austin Dunbar will be behind him, and very shortly getting alongside him potentially. But Dunbar in the end backs off. They all now firm down into a single file formation, as nobody wants to be on the inside there into turn 7 unless they can absolutely guarantee the move is possible. But meanwhile, speaking of possibilities, Franz Washington has John Lauzon for close company as they now storm the way in towards the left into right sequence. And you can see there everyone continuing right now to impress as Dan McFarlane battling here with Logan McKinzie. Logan McKinzie up the inside, coming through turn number 14. So McKinzie up another overall position. That puts McFarlane offline. And now Damon Mitchell, well, he wants one of his places back on that podium. He's itching to try and make his way back into second, at least in Gamma, if not to take the Gamma class win. But Fleet Smith right now is calming away with it a little bit as they go in towards turn number 1. And for those new to the AlphaTauri change, a quick reminder, of course, you score points primarily based on your overall finishing position. That's why everyone does battle, regardless of class. Of course, if you're a Gamma or a Delta driver, then you've got to think about the bonus points for the podium places. 8 for first, 4 for second, and 2 for third in endurance races. And we halve the points, of course, if we've got a sprint race round. So it's 4 for first, 2 for second, and 1 for third, because you've got 2 racing. It all adds back up through mathematics. But Stan McFarlane holds off Darren Mitchell for now. You see Ian Bertolucci has closed up behind. So right now, with Ray Tieu also on the back of that, they're 4 with a queue behind McFarlane, but Logan McKinzie would like to drop this queue if possible. But I think right now he's going to be the lead player in it. But meanwhile, speaking of playing games, that's Swirydowicz originally in the Audi RS3, trying to hold off Tyler Long. And Long going for a move here from outside of turn number 5 to the inside of turn 7. Will he be able to get this done to brake? And the answer is going to be yes, he can. And Swirydowicz originally loses out there as meanwhile Evan Clavier and Zach Hadarko now ride the back of him. Hadarko there, meanwhile just knowing there's a bit more work to be done as we ride aboard with the 36 driver. And one American looking one way and the other, but at the moment at least it's going to be follow the lead, and there's going to be no way through, not because he hasn't got the ability to do so, but that's the way the circuit goes. And understeer creeps in there quite horrendously, carried all that speed. And well, right now Evan Clavier looking for the move there for now. Ridgely has contact between the two. It sends out Ridgely sideways. They're inside each other for a brief moment, and well, that's internet connectivity. And they calm it down in the end. Well done to all 3 drivers there for sorting that one out. But Fernando Ridgely in the end being just tapped slightly sideways. Evan Clavier does take the place, but due to the discontinuity of Fernando Ridgely's car, I suspect that as a result he can't essentially give the place back at the moment. Also worried perhaps about losing more places as a result. But further back, that's going to be 2 wide here between Shvedska and Richmeyer. As it's going to be Mitchell Richmeyer trying to go round the outside to hold off the Gamma driver. And Shvedska did not have the happiest of qualifying performances, to be fair to him, but right now he's keeping his head down. And Lewis Gilbert is into the pit lane. I wonder if there's an issue with the car or whether he's picked up a drive-through penalty. But either way, we'll see Richmeyer make his way clear, and so does Tristan Ondra making that move there on Shvedska. And Shvedska falling down the Hyundai Veloster, and the Veloster's definitely not in a happy space here today at Barber Motorsports Park. They don't seem to be on the pace. But at the front of the field, Wojciech Swirydowicz for Beaver, or what is it, Beaver D's, right his way onwards there. The proud livery represented today, whereas last time out, of course, he was still running the breakfast for dinner livery, and I do believe he just couldn't quite let it go. But the team one night stuck into the garage, from what I hear, and just papered over the entire car and said, Wojciech, I'm sorry to tell you, the B4D livery is no longer on the car. You've now got the Beaver D's livery machine instead. And it was Michael Polasek and Matthew Meilleur follow on. All right, now keep your eyes on the third place man, because we know that his strength is the fact the pace builds as the race goes on. He's very quick by default, default, but he just seems to have that knack so far this season of finding a couple more attempts later on in the race, and we suspect he's able to preserve his tyres very well. But our top three drivers, all Alphas, all in Hondas, right now just dropping Fleet Smith little by little. Not that Smith is going to be too upset about that, as right now he's definitely pushing onwards here and looking absolutely looking golden. And I do wonder whether, continue the Spaceballs theme, whether he will be going to Pete to the Hut afterwards, or whether he'll decide to do something a little bit different, as long as it's not Colonel Sanders. But as he makes way through, not looking to chicken out of the corner, we look to Major Monsurvey. Chasing after Matthew Shepka and Zachary Bowman still as they come through that left-hander. And right now Monsurvey close, but will he be able to make a move happen? Not quite at the moment. Staying right on the heels of Shepka. And Shepka in a bit of a difficult start to the race, falling to cut down a couple of places, but still in the hunt for a top 10 theoretically in the Gamma class. He's got past Zachary Bowman to get that done. Cooper Akers, Meilleur just up the road. He's still got the pressure of Leopold behind, as we can see the two Pennzoil Super Touring drivers together. So the two teammates will want to work together. Remember, if they finish as they currently stand, they will be on your front row, because we invert the top 15 of the finishing order from this race. So this could be why this race is right now, whereby they need to hold position and make sure that Chris McDonald in the number 85 Audi does not get between them. And therefore, it could be a huge opportunity in race number 2 for Pennzoil Super Touring to land some major teams points, and also for both of their drivers to land major points in the Gamma Class Championship. But we've had a change for second place. Michael Polasek has lost out versus Matthew Meilleur, and well, we've had a few big moments so far this race, so we're going to get a quick replay, a couple of those moments, as we take a quick trip back in time, ladies and gentlemen, starting with what was the beginning of the race. And this is how we went green flag racing. A great start from all the drivers involved, as of course they made the way away. And we did see as the flag went down, well, it was a great start from Wojciech Swirydowicz. Michael Polasek not quite having the pace. A lot of drivers did fan to the inside immediately as they made the way down towards turn number 1. And as they did, well, Mark Darnell, they were really cutting the inside in towards the opening corner, but everyone was safely away. And well, in the end, well, that was not a safe ride in towards turn number 1. And Mark Darnell being turned then in contact. Was that his teammate Jason Lynn? I think it was. And we take a look back at what happened there. And this was, they made the way into that braking zone. We believe it was Link coming a bit too hot. Yes, he did. And in the end, unfortunately, right into the side of Mark Darnell and the Gator Racing pair. We'll definitely have a conversation about that one afterwards. That's not the way you want to start the day whatsoever. We did have this for Tyler Langenberg on the open lap as well. This was a little bit later on in the lap, as he was finding himself in a bit of a free to stroke 4 wide coming through turn number 5 as he made his way through the corner. A bit of contact there. That was Honda being turned sideways, and that's how he was able to make his way around the sideways machine of Crystal Honda, who was a bit of contact, and everyone able to survive that. But we also did have, what was this for Kurt Smith? And he, at the time, of course, Delta leader, making his way down through the corners. As he did so, what exactly went wrong here? Well, slid very sideways, coming up through the right-hander there of turn number 13. And got the car back together, but lost the place to Mike D'Almeida. Now, the big question mark will be, how exactly did we see Ty Long being passed on lap number 3 by Evan Clavio? And, well, this was, they made the way down into a braking zone. I believe this is into turn number 5. And Clavio come absolutely diving in from a distance and making a lovely move there to take third place in the Delta class of a Tyler Long, at which point Long then says, you know what, I'm going to have that back down the Elantra. I've got the acceleration, I've got the speed versus your Honda, so I'm going to go all in for it and show you that I can do the same back into turn 7. Bit daring, but the entire Long taking that place back. But then many of you will be wondering, how exactly did Matthew Meilleur take second place over Michael Polasek? This was on lap number 6, only moments ago. And this was, they made the way through the left into right combination, and Polasek came through the bend, and I believe had to lift off there for a slowdown penalty he may have picked up earlier on the lap. So that seems to be the story, and that's how Meilleur got the move done. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's back to your live racing. We go. As we do come back, we still do have the best part of 14 minutes of racing to go. So plenty of excitement to be had and said. And right now, these guys continue to push on here. But what exactly is going to be the next part of the story? Well, we did look back to Zach Leopold as he still follows Cooper Akers on around for 14th, 15th between the two. Chris McDowell being held back for now at least. Now, in terms of Kurt Smith, Delta leader, he's just in front of him there. As you can see, not looking too threatened at the moment. And well, this could be a huge opportunity for Kurt, because understandably, if he's the only Delta driver inside this top 15 inversion, it'll put him right towards the front of the field. Well, he'll be effectively, it will have a very good chance. It's not guaranteed, to be fair. I would like to say it's guaranteed, but when I do say that, normally the commentator's curse will strike the driver who I say it's guaranteed for. He's got a very good chance, let's say, of making it back-to-back Delta wins here today. And if he can do so, in terms of his career in the ATC, well, it would mean for Kurt, in terms of wins he's had so far, I do believe that this is going to be up there as one of a limited number of wins in class. And as we get the information on that, well, he's had 9 class wins so far. It would be his 10th win of his career. And, well, he'd be hoping to perhaps make it 11 come the end of today. But further back, Evan Clavio still chased after the back of Tyler Long. As meanwhile, a little bit further back, we do have for our Ridgely still trying to make some forward progress. He's fallen a long way back and made a trip to the pit lane, unfortunately. And he's still fighting with Thomas Fancock, who has had a bit of an off of the road from what I'm hearing in my ear. But we are focusing right now on Clavio chasing after the second place spot versus Tyler Long in the Delta class. And of course, for Fred Ridgely falling a long way back, have made a trip to the pit lane. And we suspect that might have been a black flag, drive-through penalty that's been awarded to him. Corey Lobner, meanwhile, here he goes with John Daniels, and we are just going to get an update what exactly has happened to Fred At least he was right up there, and the answer to that question of what's happened to the man, who definitely looks quite impressive and qualified, is, as we just quickly double check the information we've got available to us, well, it was a black flag. So it was due to instant points and car contact, as we understand, for Fred Ridgely, unfortunately. So his race has taken a big backward step. But as all the fighting carries on, I'm going to back up to Damon Mitchell, the Gamma pole sitter, who right now still trying to carve his way forward, although Ian Bertolucci right behind. And Will Mitchell did look very impressive qualifying. His race pace right now, still impressive to be fair. And if he was to take this third place in the Gamma class, I think he'd be very happy with that, as Bertolucci very eager to try and take it away from him, and with it take away that bonus point he'll get. Major mod survive. A bit further back, he's still on the back of Matthew Shepka as we jump aboard with your number 58 driver, and what you can see, eager to make a move, getting so close as they make their way through turns 1 and 2, but the problem is there's just no way in at the inn right now. So coming out along double right-hander and over the crest of 4, well, at this point, this is where the Audi is able to just open up the gap a little bit more. The Audi's got the speed on tap. Initially, the Elantra's got a bit more of it in towards top gear, 5th and 6th in particular, and well, they stay as they were. Behind, well, there you can see a bit of fighting Evan Clavio versus Tyler Long, and right now, Evan Clavio's got back ahead, so he's made a move in towards the hairpin. He did it earlier on, and Tyler Long was able to get it back, but this time, Evan's made it happen, and suddenly, Long cannot take it back. So I think Evan will be happy with himself for that one, but as he makes a little bit of a mistake, there goes a bit deep through turn 7. He manages to just about resuscitate his racing line at the last minute, but Tyler will look at that and think, okay, well, if you're going to make mistakes like that, I'll need to get ready to capitalise on them as quickly as I can. Nico Shredska, meanwhile, he finds himself 2 wide through turns 7, 8 and 9. Oh, that's a bit of a rallycross approach there to turn 9. And I think they're just making a bit of an error, not because he was trying to cut the course, but for the simple reason I don't think he realised how much space he had to Austin Dunbar. Mark Darnell now gets involved in this. It's going to be Darnell on the inside of Dunbar, coming through the fast sweeper turns 10 and 11. And Darnell will move into 31st overall. Can he now take 30 over Shredska? It's definitely been a race of 2 halves for these drivers right now. And Darnell still fighting hard after being turned right at the start in contact with teammate Jason Lynn. No malice meant, of course, there. It was just unfortunate the way it did go. But Darnell, as they say in motorsport, feeling the experience of the golden rule being broken, which is you never make contact with your teammate. Unfortunately, Jason and Mark Darnell making contact with each other. But meanwhile, as we look to their battle that rages on to lap number 11. And they've still got a few more laps to go. I do believe we're expecting 17 laps here based on the amount of time remaining and the average lap time. Well, we do make our way all the way back up to the front. And Wojciech Swirydowicz for now, matching the lap times of Matthew Meilleur. Meilleur was only a 100th slower by comparison on the previous lap. And Michael Polasek is now starting to storm his way back onto the back of Meilleur. There you can see him after that slowdown penalty we believe he had to serve for cutting track limit. Well, now he's fallen back into line, and his last lap was 2 tenths quicker than the top 2. So, will he be in a position to attack for second place right at the end? Your guess is as good as mine, but something tells us he's going to give it his absolute damnedest at the very minimum. As meanwhile, that's going to be a move up the inside by Gareth McAllister on John Daniels for 24th place, albeit in the end, I think it was a move on the inside that in the end went a bit wide, and I think John was thinking, Gareth, how far are you going to go off of that apex? Because I need to find a way to turn into the corner at some point, but they managed to somehow survive that. I think Gareth McAllister there carrying plenty of enthusiasm, and indeed, he's not part of CS, so he doesn't need to curb it at all. But coming down the hill, and Daniels is now going to try and come back at him with Carl Trost closing little by little. And the man who looks so impressive in practice, well, right now this has not gone right at all. Qualifying was a bit of a disaster, but right now the number 21 driver still make his way forward up into 7th place in Delta. So there's big points coming his way with that 26th overall, but understandably he wants even more. So right now I think this race 1 performance is going to be a bit of a teaser for what he's planning in race number 2. That's not a bad thing, to be fair. We're going to keep an eye out for Trost. Something tells me he is going to be absolutely flying in the next one as well. But going back towards the back end of the top 10, Francois Schenck, he finds himself right in the midst of an Alpha Gamma sandwich, as he does have Ian Bertolucci, Gamma driver in front, and Gamma John Lauzon behind, and he is the alpha filling, if you will. And Mike Almeida's close on the back of this, but also they're all following Ray Tieu, David Mitchell, and Dan McFarlane. And McFarlane right now still trying to hold on here for second place in Gamma as he runs onwards. And David Mitchell there, you can see the third place man is still bringing Tieu along with him, and Bertolucci's actually been passed by Tieu over recent laps. We'll see if we can get a replay of that shortly. But coming back to the fight for second overall, Meilleur now has Polasek closing on him as they head up the rise through turn number 14. And the SRG driver here has now got to prove that he can hold on. And Meilleur really has been one of those drivers so far this season who's shown already disrupted the order of what is your three champions at the very front. Of course, Swirydowicz, a champion in this series. Michael Polasek, the second most decorated driver in terms of championship crowns, the most decorated driver in terms of overall race time wins. And Wojciech, well, not Wojciech Swirydowicz, Logan McKinzie. I was going to say, we've already said Wojciech Swirydowicz, we don't need to say him again. Logan McKinzie, the most decorated driver in terms of crowns. And Matthew Meilleur, well, he has no crown, but what he does have is a lot of pace and some overall wins to his name. The whole game plan here will be for the SRG driver to take his maiden crown come the end of this season, but he's in the toughest competition you could have in touring car racing to be able to make that happen, as we do see Polasek closing, but not enough at this time. But we must come back to what is Montserrat versus Shepka. As Major Montserrat tries to go inside to outside returns 1, 2, and 3, coming through 4. Right now, Shepka's almost seen the door closed little by little. And Major Montserrat towards turn number 5. Will he get the move done here? Not quite. Shepka's still fighting for it, but he goes to the switchback instead now, tries to switch it around. But remember, as they come through the Kinker 6, Shepka will get initially ahead by a nose perhaps, but now he's got to try and commit round the outside returns 7, 8, and 9. This is not going to be easy, as the senior driver's going to go all in for it here. And Montserrat's going to respond by defending hard. He goes a bit deep. Shepka backs out entirely, and Major Montserrat does make that move for 11th place in the Gamma class. That'll be for 18th overall. Lovely move there by Major Montserrat. We'll see if we get a replay of the full move very shortly. As Cooper Akers and Zachary Leopold still together, and Chris McDonald still half a second behind. But it is looking as though Leopold right now, he's trying to show to Akers he's a little bit quicker, but he doesn't want to pressure him too hard. It's a bit of a difficult conundrum to work out there. McDonald and Bowman still a bit too far back to really mount their own pressure, as that's a mistake for Leopold, goes a bit deep through turn 14 into 15. He's able to correct it there, but understandably, as he goes for a much tighter turning line, I think that's to offset the dirty air off the back of his teammate in front. Or is that Leopold right now making his first mistake of the day, a very small one, but McDonald's got to look at that, and if he can get a bit closer, he might be able to pressure another mistake out the 72 driver. We'll have to see what's possible and what's not, but time is definitely running out, so the art of the possible is starting to run a little bit dry for these drivers, but you can see everyone running nice and tight together, as John Daniels looking for a move on McAllister into turn 1. This will be for 24th place, and we'll goes inside to outside here, and McAllister just parks on the apex of turn number 2 and says to John Daniels, and where are you going to go next after that? And John Daniels even has to put his hands up there and say, I can't, unfortunately, as they make the way up towards turn number 5. But you see McAllister really having to park it on the apex there. Now will Daniels lunge up the inside to turn 5? He thinks about it, but it's not going to work. And well, in the end, it's going to stay as is, as Carl Trost, teammate to Daniels, watches on. And then we do have Tyler Langenberg, still being chased after by Mitchell Richmond. The UMAT Motorsport drivers, they're coming into a bit of an element of their own towards the end of this race, but the place a bit further back as McAllister going defensive here in towards what is 7, 8, and 9. Defending hard. Daniels tries to go around the outside, but touching the grass there. He's still on the outside. And Gareth McAllister in the air just simply hold their title like and get on the power nice and early. And John Daniels tries to make it happen. It doesn't work out. But meanwhile, back to Fleet Smith, the man running in 4th place. Gamma leader, but for him, more points will be valuable if he holds on to 4th versus Logan McKinzie. But McKinzie, having gradually cleared his rivals, is on the attack as we ride aboard on the Pennzoil Super Touring number 4. And, well, of course, one of the veterans and also the mastermind behind this series, one of the senior admins. And right now, if it were not for Logan, I don't think we'd be here today enjoying the Alpha Touring Challenge in the way it's gone. But as he makes his way all the way through, well, right now, the man behind what is Fleet Smith looking to try and find a way forward. But will he go around the outside? He's going to try. It goes all in under braking. And when the Fleet Smith defends hard, but of course if McKinzie can get the traction down, he'll have the inside into turn 7, but that Audi is nowhere near slow in acceleration. The Honda will get up to third gear quite quickly, and after that it runs out of path, but this time it's going to be Fleet Smith who's on the outside, relinquishes the spot immediately, and Logan McKinzie there, the classic move, moves into 4th place, much like his door number, and we're 4 seconds between himself and Michael Polasek. I think that'll be the furthest he goes, and then he just starts to try and consolidate the place. But further back, is that Leopold? behind Cooper Akers still, but you can see now, look at the queue that's building here. Akers is struggling a little bit, and Leopold, I think, is between a rock and a hard place. On the one hand, he does not want to make a move on Akers. Whilst it will gain him more points, it will put the team at risk of losing out what will be the front row start for race number 2. Flip side of the coin is, I think Chris McDonald, he's getting closer through certain corners, as Leopold runs a little bit too wide. Front left tyre, definitely feeling the wear now, and well, that's definitely to become an increasingly big risk factor here, because the wider he goes out these corners, the more likelihood he will have an off-track penalty, but also potentially a slowdown. And the last thing you want is a slowdown, because the thing with slowdowns in any simulator, even in iRacing, is the fact that whilst it will say you've got to give time back to the tune of, say, half a second, the reality is you give the half a second back and then you lose some speed as well. So you actually lose around about 7 to 8 tenths of a second. That can be enough to enable you to lose several places. As we see a flash of the headlights there from Zachary Bowman on the back of Chris McDonald. I think that's to try and play a little bit of mind games here versus his fellow Gamma driver, but those mind games not working out so far at least. It's Mark Darnell still fighting with Christoph Ondra and Nicholas Shvedska. These guys had a brilliant battle right at the back of the field, but everywhere you look there's fighting, as Austin DeBar tries to go outside to inside to cover off for Al Ridgely, but Al Ridgely's going to go around the outside, and well, the 119 Audi driver in the end showing who's boss. They make the way onto another lap, going on to their penultimate tour of the circuit, and Al Ridgely there not afraid to do the unconventional after what was a difficult start today. Remember, he started in 17th place. He was, of course, for a potential podium, but to come into the pit lane early, it went wrong. Meanwhile, Tyler Langenberg battling with Mitchell Richmeyer for 8th place in Delta. 2-1 they come down in towards what will be the next quarter sequence. The break is over turn number 5, and Langenberg on his debut absolutely going all in the Flash Hole Privateer machine, and he will get that move done at least for a bit. And when he get clear of Richmeyer coming in towards the chicane, the answer is going to be not quite. Richmeyer's putting his nose back in there, and he knows on the Honda he can be a bit late on the brakes, even on the inside line. He'll be too wide in, touch doors, and in the end Mitchell Richmeyer still there. Langenberg still on the outside. He's going to defend it around the outside. What a brilliant defence there from Tyler Langenberg, making it work out, and in the end, well, that's the way you get it done. But meanwhile, speaking of final laps being done, Wojciech Swirydowicz now onto the last lap of the race, and well, he has got a 2-second gap over Matthew Meilleur, who is still bringing along with him for the ride, Michael Polasek. But Polasek right now 4 tenths behind here. I don't think able to find a way in at the modes at least. It might be that Polasek right now is able to stay close and just put on some mental pressure, but always the S-Shot-G driver in control. We'll have to wait and see whether that's the way he contrives it or not. Logan McKinzie in 4th place has started to gap Fleet Smith a little bit and is looking increasingly safe. So it might be a top 4 of Alpha drivers at the moment, and then your Gamma winner, although Dan McFarlane, if he can help himself to it, would love to chase down Fleet Smith, but that gap right now a bit too big. Damon Mitchell just behind. 3rd place of the Gammas. We still got half-second gap to hold Ray Tieu behind, with Ian Bertolucci and Franz Wojcik completed that top 10. And then John Lauzon has fallen to 1.7 seconds behind. And the Beaver and D's driver not quite having the pace over distance. The Hondas seem to have had the pace until the tyres go off, and then suddenly when they go off the cliff, they really do go off the cliff. And this Honda, of course, previously before the Balance of Performance update, known as the tyre god, well, here today definitely proving that regardless of the car, this circuit holds no prisoners when it comes to tyre wear. But meanwhile, making his way through the final corner, and for Wojciech Swirydowicz heading towards the line, dead on the 25 minutes. It will be victory here today. Race number 1 at Barber for Wojciech Swirydowicz. Header Matthew Meilleur and Michael Polasek will complete your top 3. Logan McKinzie will come over in 4th place, and Fleet Smith adds another Gamma win to his career, taking 5th overall ahead of Dan McFarlane, with Damon Mitchell completing the Gamma podium just behind. Ray Tieu, Ian Bertolucci and Franz Wojcik complete your top 10. John Lauzon will be 11th ahead of Mighty Almeida, and for Kurt Smith, it is going to be Delta victory. And what a drive from Kurt Smith. His 10th Delta win of his career ahead of Cooper Akers and Zachary Leopold. Penzol Super Touring will make it the front row of the grid next race, and meanwhile Kurt Smith, that Delta win, will be the only Delta driver guaranteed to be in the top 15 inversion. Evan Clavier, meanwhile, 20th place there. 2nd place in the Delta class, holding off Tyler Long all the way to the finish line. Zach Hidalgo, meanwhile, well, he finished in 4th place in Delta ahead of Corey Lobner, who rounded off the top 5 of the Deltas. 23rd overall for CFR, and we've still got a few more drivers to come to line, including and Tyler Langenberg, who just outruns Mitchell Richmeyer to the finish line. Well done to Tyler on his debut. 8th place in Delta and 27th overall, facing down a very tough cookie in the form of Mitchell Richmeyer. And Mark Darnell on his return to the racing grid, 29th over Christoph Ondra, who took the top 30 position. And in 3rd hour originally, despite a dismal start, enjoying the battle in ahead of Nicholas Shvedska and Austin DeBar. And then we do have Lewis Gilbert head towards line. There he goes, crawling to line. I suspect that car low on fuel, perhaps. And we've still got a couple more drivers to finish this race, including Thomas Fancock, who comes home with 35th, and Jason Lynn will complete our 36 car finishing order. Unfortunately, of course, we did lose along the way Micah Hendricks, but as the drivers do cool it down and that race is complete, well, we've got another race to come, ladies and gentlemen, and it's only going to be in what will be around about 5 minutes' time as we do now make our way into the intervening warm-up session. Because, of course, we do have another race of the cars, but before we get to that, let's quickly walk you through the race results subject to any issues inquiries from race number 1 here today at the Barber Motorsports Park in round number 4 of Season 17 of the AlphaTauri Challenge, sponsored by Syncmesh and Glass Steel Photography and Design, and brought to you on iRacing. So Wojciech Swirydowicz taking a victory for Beaver and D's ahead of Matthew Meilleur. The SRG driver in the end not quite able to take the win. They able to find a way ahead of Polasek, and India Polasek could not quite come back. The Yellow Flag Motorsport driver finished in third, just ahead of Logan McKinzie. It was still Alpha top 4, and then Fleet Smith, your Gamma winner. Well, what a brilliant drive him all the way through to 5th place. And in terms of where that stands in his career and how many wins he does have in class, well, for Fleet Smith, that is going to be, as we just get the little bit of data for that, well, that is going to be only his second ever career class win. He's had one overall win, and that is going to be in AlphaTauri Challenge Season 14, round number 9 at Laguna Seca. But for Fleet Smith today, well, he had another win. It is his first ever Gamma win. So congratulations to Fleet Smith for that, for B4Ds. And Dan McFarlane just missing out, but the Sim Racing Grid driver doing a brilliant job in holding on to second place in the class. Darren Mitchell took 7th place there, completing the Gamma podium, and the Crop Promotion driver who took pole position couldn't quite convert it, but still made sure to hold on and expected to come back even faster in the next race. Ray Tieu in Bertolucci and Francois Schink completed your top 10. For Beaver and D's, Sim Racing Grid and Kirby Infused Autosport respectively. And in 11th place, John Lauzon just missed out on the top 10, but to be fair to him, he'll now be starting on the third row of the grid going into race number 2 for Beaver and D's. Yellow Flag Motorsports Mike Almeida was 12th place, stayed right behind Lauzon all the way through, and it was 3.7 seconds to Kurt Smith there. And the B4D's driver taking his 10th Delta win of his career, and the Canadian driver looking absolutely unstoppable. Cooper Akers and Zachary Leopold, the Pennzoil Super Touring pair, making sure to work together. There was no change between the two of them, and what it means is they will be your front row starters for race 2, and will definitely, Zach Leopold will be your pole sitter. Chris McDonald just missing out on the top 15 inversion. He'll be 16th on the grid for the next one for Croc Promotions ahead of Zach Bowman. And then we did see Major Bonsai, Matthew Shepka and Evan Clavio complete your top 20, with Shepka gradually being muscled down the order for Sia, and Evan Clavio right behind him in the end, taking second place in the Delta class. But for Clavio, more importantly, he'll be very happy to have found a way past Tyler Long for T0 Race of the Set, with that daring move into turn number 5, and then he enforced it all the way to turn number 9, and Tyler Long having to settle for third place on the Delta podium. But for the T0 Race of the Set driver, he'll be happy still to have gained a little bit of ground on his teammate in the championship of Zach Hudako, who finished behind him to the tune of 7 seconds. Corey Lobner rounded off the Delta top 5, 23rd overall, the privateer ahead of Gareth McAllister, and the U-Mountain Motorsport driver in the end had to dig deep hold off John Daniels, with Carl Trost 26th. Given the way it started in qualified, that's an improvement from Trost, but we expect plenty more in the next race. Tyler Langenberg, 27th there, ahead of Mitchell Richmeyer, with Mark Darnell and Christoph Ondra completing your top 30. And then we did see in 31st place for Ara Ritchie for SRG, ahead of Nicholas Shvedska and Austin Dunbar, with the trio enjoying a brilliant battle. And in the end, nobody could quite find a way past Ondra, who was just ahead by 2 tenths. Mine Lewis Gilbert in 34th for Gator Racing. It was Thomas Fancock, 35th. And then we did see your final finish of the race, Jason Lynn for Gator Racing. So all 36 starters made it to the finish. Unfortunately, we had a non-start for Micah Hendricks due to a technical issue with the car for Croc Promotions, but what we're hearing in our ear, we may be seeing him on the grid for race number 2, which is so fantastic news, but understandably not the way he's weighed the day to go, because he will be losing it out on some very valuable points. But here we are, ladies and gentlemen, a reminder of your schedule. And coming up in approximately 1.5 minutes' time, we make it away to the grid for the second of our 2 sprint races here today in round number 4, because it is another 25-minute race coming up. And if race number 1 is any indicator of how excited the race is going to be, we are set for an even more intense race in race number 2, because, of course, we do have the reversed grid, the top 15 reverse grid for race number 2. And what that will do is essentially put all the drivers in a position whereby we are going to be seeing plenty in the form of back and forth fighting. But in fact, our warm-up period is already complete, and well, that means we've only got one thing to do. It is time to make our way to the grid for race number 2. And so as our drivers make the way onto the grid once again, this is how they'll all line up for our second and final sprint race of the day in round number 4 of Season 17 of the AlphaTauri Challenge. Zachary Leopold taking up pole position for Pennzoil Super Touring, joined on the front row of the grid by his teammate of Cooper Akers. So this could be a huge opportunity for the team right now that are needing some crucial team championship points, and both of the Gamma drivers there eager to boost their championship campaigns. Kurt Smith, the only Delta inside that top 15 inversion, starts third for B4Ds. In theory, at least, I don't want to put the curse on him, this could be a double Delta win today, and with it, this second one could be a huge haul of points if he can stay inside that overall top 10. Matthew Meilleur for Yellow Flag Motorsports starts 4th place, just ahead of John Lauzon for Beaver and D's, and Wojciech Swirydowicz starts 6th. The Canadian driver alongside his fellow countryman, and will Lauzon and Shinka no strangers to each other. They've had some very fierce battles over the last couple of years, but will we see another intense battle between them today? Ian Bertolucci starts in 7th place there for Sim Racing Grid, ahead of Ray Tieu for Beaver and D's. And then we do have Damon Mitchell for Crop Promotions and Dan McFarlane for Sim Racing Grid completing the top 10. Outside the top 10, starting in 11th place, it is going to be Fleet Smith for B4Ds ahead of Logan McKinzie. And in the Pennzoil Super Touring Trial, we followed up by Michael Polasek for Yellow Flag Motorsport and Matthew Meilleur for SRG. Wojciech Swirydowicz, the man who took the victory in race number 1 overall. Well, of course, he'll be starting in 15th place for this one for Beaver and D's. Now he's got to try and carve his way through the field. But Chris McDonald, 16th place of the grid for Crop Promotions. He's got even more work to do, it would seem. Zach Bowman starts 17th for Yellow Flag Motorsport, had a major mod survivor TC Racing Summit who could not find a way past the 654 driver, but still he will try and find a way in towards turn 1 if he can. And Matthew Shepka for Sia and Evan Clavio for Sim Racing Grid will complete your top 20. Clavio, of course, the 2nd place starter in the Delta class. Such is now the gap between him and Kurt Smith, the pole sitter of the class. And then we do see in 21st place and Tyler Long, 3rd of the Delta drivers on this grid for T0 Racing Ascent, and the theme of Deltas continues as Zach Hodako, his teammate, join him on row 11. Row number 12 will be contested by Corey Lobner and Gareth McAllister, with the U-Mountain Motorsport driver being followed up by T0 Racing Summit's John Daniels and his sister team driver Carl Trost of T0 Racing Ascent. Tyler Langenberg, after a very enthusiastic opening race of his season, and in his debut to the ATC, well, he'll be starting 27th there, just ahead of Mitchell Richmond for U-Mountain Motorsport. Expect more fighting between them, and Mark Darnell for Gator Racing and Crystal Onder for Junkin the Truck Electronicas complete your top 30. Outside the top 30 in 31st place, it's going to be Fuad Al-Rigi for SRG, head of Nicholas Shvedska for Shvedska Racing, the lowest placed of your Gamma drivers, and then we do see Austin Dunbar for Prom Tribe Motorsport, ahead of Gator Race's Lewis Gilbert. The final full row of the grid will be occupied by Thomas Vancock and Jason Lynn, and then we will see starting last, but by no means least, Micah Hendricks, who has made his way onto the grid. So therefore, the number 70, well, the number 73 will rise once again, and we look forward to seeing how he could potentially try and carve his way through the field. But ladies and gents, without further ado, we look down to the front of the field because it's time for lights, and it's time to go green flag racing. And it's lights out and away we go once again for our second and final race of the day here at the Barber Motorsports Park in the US state of Alabama. And as they roar the way down towards turn 1, well, good start there for Cooper Akers. Zachary Leopold tucks into the inside, and well, in the end it's going to stay as they were as they make the way onwards. But as we do see, oh, going to be a bit of contact there to the rear. Oh, I believe that's number Farley's car, and it's going to be Damon Mitchell being turned out sideways as well. Several cars going sideways, but are they all going to survive it as a car going very sideways to the barrier? Oh, going to be, who's that going sideways? Is that Kurt Smith? It is Kurt Smith who's end up in the rears, although he's not in the camera angle right now, so they all disperse. Still tries to take it to the grass there. It's absolute pandemonium as they make their way down towards turn number 5. And Wojciech Swirydowicz quickly find his way through. But meanwhile, suddenly Evan Clavio is propelled to the top of the Delta Tower. As all these drivers making their way through the hairpin, and where race number 1 was relatively sedate, race number 2 right now has become an absolute firecracker. And Tyler Langenberg, he's going to find himself on the outside of a 4 wide here. Well, he's going to clear it, so that's going to be 3-1 between Hodako, McAllister and Trost. Oh, and that's going to be, I think that's Gareth McAllister being propelled outwards. It is, that's Gareth McAllister who's been sent very wide to the outside of turns 7, 8 and 9. And when the 3 wide there, somebody had to give way, but nobody gave way. Unfortunately, well, it was Gareth McAllister who was forced to give way instead. But my goodness, ladies and gentlemen, what a start. I don't think it's over yet as Major Mod Survive still fighting here as they come down towards turns 11 and 12, as he goes too wide in. Well, he's going to make his way past Ray Tieu, is he? No, Tieu comes back at him. Oh, car sideways there. Well, somebody got it very wrong. Was that Ray? Well, that was not Ray Tieu. I think that was a very sideways Michael Polasek making his way past the camera shot. And meanwhile, Ian Bertolucci's had a brilliant start to this race, already up in the 4th place. So Bertolucci ahead of Francois Shing. Logan McKinzie just behind Dan McFarlane right now, where he's attacking John Lauzon. Lauzon's been able to gain through all the chaos and carnage, although he did lose places overall, but he's been able to gain some time. Matthew Shepka, meanwhile, where he fans out to the inside towards turn 1, trying to fight here with Zachary Bowman for position. That'll be for 9th place in Gamma as well. Does he get the move on? Not quite, as unfortunately I do believe we may have lost Damon Mitchell from this race due to the technical issue. We will wait and see what we're to find out. But goodness me, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to need to really understand what happened. There was so much that happened in the opening few corners, and well, thankfully we'll be able to get a replay of it in due course. But right now, let's let things settle down first. and not spoil the action on circuit, as we do have Zachary Bowman and Matthew Shepka still fighting. The yellow flag motorsport tried to defend hard to the inside, and Shepka taps him on the rear and not able to find that switch back in the end. As we can see there, a bit of a run deep there for Tyler Langenberg, and Swirydowicz originally is going to go on the attack in the rear of the picture, as meanwhile Michael Hendricks trying to go around the outside of John Daniels here into turn 7, 8 to 9. Is it going to work out? It will. What about Langenberg and Al Ridgely? Well, that's going to work out as well there for what will be Langenberg holding on to second place in Delta for now, and well, could it be in his debut round he takes a Delta podium? Well, if so, he'll be absolutely ecstatic about that, as Damon Mitchell is back for the EFA, and as he returns, he's in 23rd ahead of Lewis Gilbert and Carl Trost, but this has not worked out at all for Damon Mitchell, and well, this race has simply gone a lot further back than he would like it to, but now he's going to have to get going. But as we do see Trost and Richmeyer fighting, well, Carl Trost has gained one place in class. He's gained a couple of places overall, given everything that's happened. Oh, hold up a second. Who was that going very wide off the road? I think that was Christopher Onder being sent sideways. And in fact, it was not Christopher Onder. There's a Fancock just ahead. And I believe that might be the car there of none other than Evan Clavio going very sideways, going through turn 12 into 13. Well, in fact, no, it was Onder's car. We were right the first time there. We did see the luminescent pink-purple car go flying off the road. And, well, how it exactly ended up there, your guess is as good as mine, but we'll be able to find out in due course. But meanwhile, we come back to the front of the field on lap 3, and right now Francois Schinck, Logan McKinzie and Wojciech Swirydowicz all together, although that is going to be McKinzie looking at the inside of Schinck, but in the end, well, by breaking that outside line, he invites McKinzie to go for the dive, and McKinzie doesn't need to be asked twice to go for something like that, and I think in retrospect, did Schinck regret that, because McKinzie now finds himself on the outside here. He's going to try and make the move all the way through turn 7, 8 and 9, even get it done, it'll be all the way through turn to number 10, as that's going to be, in the end, a bit of a run wide there for Swirydowicz, and well, he's going to fall back onto the road. McKinzie also losing out, so both of the Alpha drivers there, both making mistakes, attacking Schinck, and will make no mistake. John Lansell and Dan McFarlane will latch onto the back of it, and they will be getting ready to go on the attack once more as we ride aboard here with the Sim Racing grid number 23. Using all the runoff area there to his heart's content, and well, the opening 5 minutes of this race have absolutely been on a knife edge as they go through. Oh, who's that going away? That's Logan McKinzie. McKinzie goes spinning off the road there, coming down through turn number 10 in towards 11, and well, for McKinzie, it's all gone very, very wrong, and well, what exactly did go wrong, we're not 100% certain, but he plummets down the timing tower, and as he does so, he falls down to 23rd place. Well, it went wrong for David Mitchell earlier on in the race, and now it's gone wrong for Logan McKinzie, and in fact, that was at turns, what was 12 into 13, not 10 and 11. But either way, for Logan McKinzie right now, it's all gone backwards. Well, meanwhile, Dan McFarlane fighting hard here with John Lauzon. They're going to fight over 5th place in Gamma, and what translates into 7th place overall. Lauzon the inside here for Beaver and D's. The Sim Racing Grid driver at this point. He's going to run out of road very gradually, and that move's going to be made by John Lauzon there. Lauzon coming on through, but it's not over yet. McFarlane now thinks about going to the inside here, in towards the hairpin. All onto the brakes they go. He's going to absolutely attack full pelt, and we briefly lose him to the ether, but we get it back. And in the end, John Lauzon still defends on the outside here, so Lauzon right now refuses to budge an inch, let alone a mile, and we're too wide in towards turn number 7. Who's going to blink last? And the answer is, well, both drivers I think here are going to refuse to blink. It's going to be a game of chicken it out of the brakes, and John Lauzon is able to beat that as Dan McFarlane stays right behind. But just behind them, well, Mike Hendricks already up into 14th place, just passing Bowman coming in towards turn number 7. And I'll tell you one thing right now, Hendricks is absolutely flying in that Audi RS3 Gen 2. Had already come from 37th to 14th. Hendricks right now showing no signs of slowing down at any point. The man is absolutely possessed here to get into the top 10. If he gets into the top 10 at the end of this race, I'll tell you one thing, that's going to be an incredible achievement given how difficult it is to overtake here at Barber Motorsports Park. As Bowman very sideways, rear of the car, let's go! And that hits the barrier, and that's the rear left suspension. That's going to drop immediately. And the yellow flag Motorsport 654, there is no way he's carried on like that. That's going to have to carry into the pit lane immediately. That car is going to be heavily damaged there, and he immediately comes into the pits just like that. That's perfect timing. Well, Zachary Bowman, he may have made a complete mistake of it, a complete hash brown of the run of the corner at turn 12 into 13, but he was able to make it into the pit lane there with a plums. A 10 out of 10 for style points, but that's not the way he wants it to go. Those points will mean nothing when it comes to the championship. But as Major Mod survive, follows Chris McDonald and Ray Tieu just behind. Well, right now, nose to tail between these drivers at the very front of the field. Cooper Akers and Zach Leopold, Pencil Super Touring. They swap the two of them around at the start of the race. Akers getting into lead. And well, I think right now, Leopold has got the requirement to be the rear gunner in this battle as Mike Almeida continues to follow them. Francois Schinck and Wojciech Swirydowicz just behind there. And right now, Swirydowicz is the one you need to watch out for because he's trying to make it back-to-back wins here today. And if he's able to do so, well, suddenly that's going to extend his championship advantage even more. more. And that's what the Beaver and D's driver wants to try and do. He wants to try and get a nice early championship lead before Polasek and Meilleur really able to start hitting their stride, of which Meilleur has already made notable strides forward with 2 endurance race wins this season. Meanwhile, Swirydowicz yet to take an endurance round win, but definitely taking the sprint wins by comparison. Matthew Meilleur a little bit further back. You can see on the back of the far lane at the moment, still trying to find a way in. And looking for a bit of a switchback there, getting a better rotation, coming through 12 in towards 13. The only problem, of course, the SRG driver is the fact that this Honda right now, for all the cornering capacity, he's still got to try and poke his way past. It's not easy at all as he comes down the hill. That Lancia just looking too quick to be caught once they get onto an acceleration zone. But the Canadian driver here really frying the corner as much as he can. But as we do look back to Michael Meilleur battling with the yellow flag motorsport machine of Shink, or with the C machine of Shink, I should say, and it is currently the yellow flag motorsport car of Almeida holding on. Well, it's going to be Wojciech Swirydowicz diving up the inside there, takes a bit of a squeeze, and as they come out, Swirydowicz doesn't need to be asked twice. He makes that move immediately for fourth place there. And I think Francois Shink right now is going to be saying, how on earth has he made that happen? And Wojciech Swirydowicz saw the door open. That's the thing. When you fight with someone, if he's right behind you, he will find a way to get his nose in there. He's like a dog in a way, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way. If he gets a sniff of a move, he will be there like he'll be a dog chasing after a dinner or a bone. And right now, as Wojciech Swirydowicz making that move, well, it's going to be too wide here, and Michael Meilleur at this point, he's going to defend to the inside, but Swirydowicz, of course, being such a decorated touring car driver, is going to go all the way around the outside and moves up into third place. So Swirydowicz making another move stick as they head in towards the left into right here. Well, now Francois Shink trying to go around the outside, not going to work for Sia, and in the end his aspirations right now going to be parked as Ian Bertolucci wants to get involved just that little bit more. But goodness me, what a race we've had so far, ladies and gentlemen. But as the battling continues, we're going to take a quick look back at what exactly happened at the race start, because there was a bit of drama, and here's how we got underway. So, well, we did go green flag racing. We are going to look to the blimp camera in this instance to see what exactly did go down between all the drivers. We went green flag racing. And, well, starting from the very front, we saw Zachary Leopold and Cooper Akers have a good start. And it was Akers who had the better start on the outside. So then what exactly happened to Damon Mitchell is the big question that everyone will be asking. Well, it was a big squeeze in towards turn number 1, but the field all came through. And as they made the way to the tree line, I think Mitchell got checked up there and tapped the rear of Dan McFarlane. And I think then subsequently, Mitchell went around the outside, but McFarlane went into the side of him. That seems to be the story there. This is what it looked like on board from the perspective of Damon Mitchell as he made his way through the corners. So on the outside, and the Crop Promotions driver in the end had to take a bit of a rally cross line. So this was after the fact in the way, as he then had to go all the way around because somebody was very sideways there on the inside into the corner. So can we go back to what was a bit earlier on and see what happened for Damon Mitchell? I think we can, and we're going to in fact see Dan McFarlane and Damon Mitchell together as they made the way in. And then there was a bit of contact rear McFarlane by Mitchell, it would seem, from that camera angle, and then subsequently there was a further contact between the two of them. But meanwhile, Kurt Smith, well, he found himself turned around there. So what exactly happened to Kurt Smith's race? Well, here we take a look back and find out. So this was Kurt Smith making his way through the corners, and we found himself balanced side by side here as he made his way with the riser to it towards 3. And in the end, as he came on through, the 77 tapping on the rear there, and that's what sent around. John Lalsop gave a small tap, and at that point, Smith had no control of the car. It wasn't its destiny towards the barrier, and that's what set it all off. And unfortunately, holding the brakes there, well, good thing he did hold the brakes, we should say, otherwise it could have been far, far worse. But we had this for Tyler Long. It all went wrong for Long as he made his way down towards turn number 5, into that braking zone again with the blimp camera, and well, you can see 3, 4 wide, all the way up and down the field. Somebody being turned very sideways there. I think that might have been the CFR car of Corey Lobner, and Tyler being turned around entirely. And then we did have the run in towards the turn 7, 8, 9 chicane, and well, there was the 3 wide there, and in the end, all drivers safely making it on through. That was Bowman, Tieu, and also Shepka get involved in that, but it did go wrong for some other drivers as well. But we're not going to dwell too long on this because of the fact we have got there's plenty more racing to come, although we did have this big bump for Logan McKinzie on lap 3, and this was McKinzie making his way down in towards, I believe at the time, turns 11 and 12, and as he did so, took the first curve a bit too high, bounced the car around, and ejected himself out of the racing, and in the end, rolled it all the way to the edge of the grass, but thankfully, not hitting the barrier. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we'll call time with the replays. Let's go back to your live racing. As we do come on back, we still do have just over half the race remaining, so plenty more excitement to come. We are on lap number 8 of an expected what he is at 17 laps once again. And right now, well, whilst we've been away, Wojciech Swirydowicz has found his way up into second place. We apologise for missing that, but it does seem as though Akers now really have to hold on. Swirydowicz very quickly coming on through. And Mike Dalvida loses out to Franz Wojciech just behind. Now, where will Swirydowicz look for the move on Cooper Akers? Of course, it's not guaranteed he'll make it happen as they go on to a ninth tour of the circuit. The Beaver and D's driver looking to the inside immediately here, trying to get into the head of the Pennzoil Super Touring driver. It's not going to work out as wipers go on there. No rain expected today. That's to get debris off of the windscreen, give himself a bit more visibility. Akers braking very early there compared to Swirydowicz. That actually caught Swirydowicz out to a degree, and in the end he had to pull the car slightly to left to make sure he did not make any further contact. And we'll come in over the crest now, turn before, right in the draft here. I think this is going to be a chance for a move. Will he be able to deliver the move? We'll have to wait and see. Goes all in. And until that wasn't delivered by UPS, it was delivered by Swirydowicz because it's a UPS car in front of the Pennzoil Super Touring. And Swirydowicz making it move there. And definitely the delivery man when it comes to overtakes. But the Beaver and D trying now to hold off Akers, who's going to try and come back here and show that he can also make some big moves up the inside. And we'll 2-1. They're coming towards turns 7, 8 and 9. Akers defending hard, but Swirydowicz will go around the outside. And that's going to be a smooth move. And Cooper Akers will drop down now into second place. But he has that Leopold as his teammate right behind. Still 1-2 for Pennzoil Super Touring in the Gamma class, it would seem. And Franz Wojciech now looking to try and get involved here. The Sia driver, who definitely does not want Wojciech Swirydowicz saying Sia to the rest of the field if he can help it. But he's still got to find his way through here. And the number 18 driver still knocking on the door as much as humanly possible. But with the fighting that's going on here, we've also got fighting further back. We're going to stay transfixed to this lead battle just for a little bit longer. Get how close it is. And Swirydowicz taking a much wider line there, and again that's that confidence that he has in the Honda to be able to take the deeper lines into the course to set up the later apexes on these sweeping bends. It's what's gaining in the lap time compared to his rivals, although to be fair, when we say it's gaining lap times, it is hundredths. Those hundredths all add up over the race distance as they go on to lap 10. But further back, Michael Polasek looking to try to attack Dan McFarlane for position now, trying to take 9th place overall. He finds himself at the very back end of the longer top 10 train, and then you do have a 1.1 second gap to Chris McDonald with Micah Hendricks behind. The two teammates together here as they look to try and continue to move forward for crop promotions. But we're on the way onwards right now. Hendricks still waiting and looking up the inside. He'll go for the move here. They'll swap places around. That'll be on team communication between the two, and we'll make sure not to make it difficult for each other as Mike Dalvida battling with Ian Bertolucci. Bertolucci trying to make the place on him. Bertolucci in the Hyundai Elantra looking around the outside here for third place in Gamma. The Brazilian driver wants it. John Lauzon is also thinking about getting his nose stuck in there, but he don't really go free wide into the chicane. And he decides not to stick his nose in too much as Leopold at the end almost loses the car, as did Franz Wojciech coming through. So therefore it's going to push them back towards Amida, Bertolucci and Lauzon. Lauzon too wide here, Bertolucci outside to inside. That's not going to work out. He's going to fall back into line at least for now. But further back, Corey Lobner, after finding himself ejected out a bit wide, coming through the turn 5 hairpin, now onto the back of Tyler Langenberg. Langenberg running in third place in the Delta class, has lost out to Fred Hour originally for that second place spot, but to be fair, still trying to chase that podium, and Corey Lobner would love to take it off of him. As Carl Trost, well, we said watch out for him, he's made some good ground in this one. He's now up in the 5th place in class. We'll have to wait and see how much further he can go, as Lauzon still fighting with Matthew Meilleur here, and Meilleur finding his way around the outside at SRG, or is it the inside? No, it's going to be the it is going to be the outside. That was correct the first time. Goes around the outside, and then Dan McFarlane says, well, if he can do it, I can do it too. And right now the Sim Racing Grid driver not wanting to be outshone by the sister team machine of SRG, but sadly John Lauzon tries to shut the door once, he tries to shut it twice, and he finds there's a car there each time. And when that's trying to shove a door on someone who's put a foot in the door there, and Dan McFarlane's not going to appreciate that. But here comes Michael Polasek, who says, you know what, is there room for free? And as they come down to the braking zone, John Lauzon says, no, Michael, go away. And as they roar the way out the hill right now, Micah Hendricks on the back of this, and the Hendricks has just suddenly arrived on the scene here, and the crop promotions try. They're all going to look over the shoulder at the moment and go, who invited him exactly? Well, Hendricks is going to say, I invited myself to this, thank you very much. He looks up the inside, that's not going to work. And right now, coming down the hill, oh, goodness me, all very much late on the brakes there, but every one of these drivers absolutely on the limit. They're all 5 in position, they all know each other like the back of their respective hands. And right now, the crop promotion driver Hendricks, he may have started this race in 37th place, but I can tell you one thing, 11th right now, 9 minutes to go. A top 10 is highly possible here. A top 5 may be a bit of a jump, but to be fair, he's going to give it his bestest. And Michael Polasek is not able to find a way past Dan McFarlane at the moment, as they head up the hill through to number 13 towards 14. And right now here comes Polasek up the inside this time, but still McFarlane trying to go all the way around the outside here and into the braking zone for turn number 60 they go. And well, right now this is going to be an absolutely brilliant bit of defensive driving here from Dan McFarlane if he can pull this off. And Michael Polasek right now is going to be increasingly frustrated. He wants to go after his Alpha rivals. Well, Dan McFarlane is past in, he tucks back in, but if anybody does remember, of course, given the fact Many of us will be big fans of touring car racing throughout the years. If anybody remembers the frustration of Alan Meilleur all the way back in 1993 at Alton Park when he was chasing after the Peugeot at the time, I do believe it was the Peugeot of Tim Harvey back in the era whereby you could get the bonus point for leading a lap of the race. Well, right now, that was definitely very cognizant of there. Imagine Michael Polasek as the Alan Meilleur of the grid, and meanwhile, Tim Harvey represented there being Dan McFarlane. But now, once one has made his way through, Mike Hendricks looks up the inside and makes it another move. So therefore, Dan McFarlane pushed down to 11th place down. Hendricks just trying to follow in the footsteps of Polasek as much as humanly possible. But Ray Tieu a bit further behind. On the back of On Survive here for 13th place, but of course there's plenty happening inside the top 15, but it'd be rude of us not to consider what's going on outside of it as well. As this is John Daniels trying to clear Fred Al originally for 17th place, and when he's able to do so initially, Al originally did make a bit of a mistake at the corner early on, and that's how the places have swapped around. I'm also hearing in my ear that Nicholas Schwedska has had to tow to the pit lane due to damage to the car, which is very unfortunate. And meanwhile, Logan McKinzie making a move up the inside there towards Fancock. And remember, McKinzie was the man who got ejected out onto the grass code through turns 11 into 12 much earlier on. Things went very sideways, and we should try to get it all back together where he can. As he tries to do so, well, Mitchell Richmeyer still carrying on his story here, and keeping Fleet Smith behind it for now. And for Fleet Smith, what a backwards day of a race this has been after what was a brilliant race number one. Things have definitely come undone in this one, unfortunately for him, and his first Gamma win. And right now, definitely not going to be seeing a second Gamma win in this one today. Corey Lobner all over pressure here from Tyler Langenberg, and Langenberg attacking him furiously, but Lobner has found his way through into third place in the Delta class. And here's a quick replay to explain how exactly that move was made, because that's a considerable one, and Corey Lobner making up that ground there as we do get the replay, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. Now, this was they made the way out to turn number 11, 12 and 13, and coming up the hill in towards turn number 14, I do believe. And, well, in the end, Lobner just on the inside there. Smooth move, to be fair, and Langenberg tried to come back into turn 16. Couldn't quite get back on the inside. So a lovely bit of manoeuvring, and that's how the move was made. But what exactly went wrong for Nicholas Schwedska, I hear you ask? Well, unfortunately, we don't have a replay of that, I don't think, as we go back to your live racing action. If we do come back, we're not too much time left in the race in this. We are going to try and stay with our live pictures for as long as we possibly can now. And, well, what's changed since then? Not too much, although we are hearing that Christopher Ondo's had a bit of a demise in this race. In fact, as he's had a bit of a mistake into turn 5. He's not crashed, he's just simply outbroke himself into the corner, so Logan McKinzie will take another place there. So McKinzie now up into 30th place, but a long way from what will feel like home for him. Well, meanwhile, we look to Wojciech Swirydowicz, goes on to lap 14, and look at the gap he's opened up to Cooper Akers already. 5.3 seconds. The man is absolutely going. And Zach Leopold behind there, completing that top three at the moment. But Franz Washington still trying to find his way past. And, well, as he looks over the back there of what will be Zach Leopold, well, Mike D'Almeida and Matthew Meilleur there behind. And Ian Bertolucci still staying in the queue. Full place Gamma drive at the moment. Would like a way past Meilleur. I think they all would like to make their way past Akers if they can. Cooper Akers right now holding everybody up. And, well, Mike Hendricks a bit further behind, looking for a move on Michael Polasek. Is that going to work out? Not quite. Polasek having to go very defensive, but taps the rear of what is John Lauzon. It turns Lauzon very sideways, and Lauzon has towed to the pit lane there, been sent around. Polasek coming in a bit too hot, it would seem, and that's at least what the camera angle would suggest, but don't quote us on that. Of course, the cameras say one thing, the reality could be a bit different, but Sonny Hendricks gets ahead of both of them as a result, and Polasek there losing out considerably. And, well, the Yellow Flag Motorsport driver in the end, it's very rare he makes a mistake, but that's a mistake. Once it happens, well, it's going to have consequences there for Lauzon's race, also for his own, and it could have consequences in the stewards' room afterwards. But understandably, no malice meant. It's the way it just went a bit wrong there, but when the racing is this close, you are going to see incidents like that, no doubt about it, even from some of the very best on the grid. Even the best make mistakes, ladies and gentlemen, we have to agree to that. But Fred Al originally chased after John Daniels for 16th place. Some more points potentially trying to come his way. Damon Mitchell, of course, after being elbowed about right at the start of the race. Well, right now he's still on the hunt. And to give credit where it's due to the Crop Promotions driver, he's really had a solid day today. Race number 2 hasn't worked out for him. But to be fair, with that third place in Gamma in race number 1, well, Damon enjoying himself out there. And we're very much enjoying seeing what he can do. And I get the feeling this season, as it goes on, is only going to get better and better for him. We've got a long campaign this season. Of course, we do have 12 rounds of racing, my memory serves me correctly. And therefore 2 drop scores as well. A couple of rounds being poor. I'm not going to upset the apple cart. So Damon Mitchell right now building that momentum. He's taking a couple of rounds to really start to get going, but once he gets going, he's definitely looking quite unstoppable when it comes to being able to enjoy battling action. But as we come back to the front of the field, well, there's Swirydowicz, and then we do pan back to Cooper Akers. And right now, Zach Leopold still acting as the rear gunner. And Franz Washington finding himself in a battle with Mike D'Almeida. And Amida right now trying to look for a move here as they make their way down the hill through what will be turn say an 8 and 9. But Matthew Meilleur trying to look up the inside. That's not going to work as we look back from the rear of Schink's car. And the Audi driver right now for Sia, definitely trying to say goodbye to Almeida as much as he possibly can, but it's nowhere going to be easy here as they come onto the backstretch once again. This runner quarters, of course, which really challenging, particularly when tyre wear starts to build up more and more. But the yellow flag motorsport car poking and probing. Almeida trying to say to Francois Schinck, I'm going for first. And right now Francois Schink's going to be saying, yes, I know that, I'm trying to do it too. But both of them will need to get a move on if they want to get past the Pennzoil Super Touring cars in front that definitely are proving to be a little bit of a roadblock. But meanwhile, it's going to be Matthew Meilleur trying to get through as Almeida looks for a move around the outside. That doesn't work at all, so it's going to be a continued battle. And Meilleur right now definitely staying in the hunt. Bertolucci and Hendricks there. Bertolucci thinking about trying to get the inside of Meilleur into turn 1, but he's also trying to use that as a means of dissuading Micah Hendricks from making a move. And Hendricks right now really playing around, looking left, looking right, looking every which way, but can't find his way past in this brilliant fight as they come down onto lap 16. They've got this lap plus one more to go, we believe, ladies and gentlemen, based on the time remaining. It's going to be close to see where we're getting 18th lap, but something tells me 17 laps, and that will be it as we just double check in race control, and it will be 17 laps. And meanwhile, that is going to be a very defensive line there from Bertolucci in towards turn number 5. And right now, Bertolucci not liking at all the fact that he's under so much pressure here as he rolls way up the hill. And in fact, Hendricks now going for the switch back in towards turn number 7. We can see the flash of the headlights from Dan McFarlane behind, trying to get Bertolucci to look behind, not in front. And well, Dan McFarlane eager, but Hendricks meanwhile still having to make sure that Bertolucci can't hold it around the outside. Bertolucci refusing to wilt over on this one, but Hendricks moves into 7th place, and right now doing a brilliant job there of getting through, but Bertolucci's not out of this yet, and right now the Brazilian driver has been protecting the Lancia's tyres, but here comes Dan McFarlane, looks up the inside and then realises, hold up a second, that's a sweeper, I can't be that tight to the inside, and McFarlane pulls back into line very quickly as Chris McDonald, Major Montserrat and Ray Tieu are all there with them. But meanwhile, what's going on a bit further back, Ty Langenberg and Lewis Gilbert. Langenberg has lost out 4th place in Delta to Carl Trost, and right now Lewis Gilbert is trying to add to it, and I wonder well, Langenberg has slightly cooked his front tyres on that Lancia because his pace has slipped down in terms of how it was going. It was good at the start. Remember, he did gain quite a bit from the instance on lap 1. But to be fair to him, drivers gain, others lose. And it's out how you put it together. And even so, a top 5 finish for Langenberg, if he can hold off Gilbert, would be a huge result for him in only his 2nd race of his career against a very hotly contested Delta Championship this season. It was last season, a season of 2 halves between what was McDonald and Long. But this season, we have really got the Deltas coming alive. And Hidako has been the anomaly so far in terms of how far he's been able to break away, but even so the results are swinging back today, and Evan Clavio right now is going to be making his win versus what will be Kurt Smith in race number 1. But further back, that is Ray Tieu and Major Montserrat side by side here as they come down in towards turn number 7 for the final time. We are on the last lap as I see the white flag being waved outside the Conte booth window, and Tieu does finally get that 11th place off of Montserrat. He'll be very pleased to finally taken that. But Akers still with Leopold behind. It's going to be such a huge result for what will be the Pennzoil Super Touring team as they weave their way through the last few corners. And as they do so, well, the drivers making their way on the round right now. And as they head towards the timing line, well, they may be 2nd and 3rd. But meanwhile, for this man, well, for Wojciech Swirydowicz, it was a 54th win of the season. 54th win of the season. And indeed, his career last race. This one's going to be his 55th. And as I stumble over my words, Wojciech Swirydowicz makes no habit of stumbling to a line. A brilliant drive from him, but it will be 1-2 in the Gamma class here for Pennzoil Super Touring, and it'll be 2nd and 3rd for them. Akers ahead of Leopold, ahead of Francois Schinck, who takes on 4th place. Mighty Almeida completes the Gamma podium. Matthew Meilleur takes 6th ahead of Mike Hendricks. Ian Bertolucci, Dan McFarlane and Chris McDonald complete your top 10. Meanwhile, in 13th place behind Tieu and Montserrat, it will be Evan Clavio who brings on home will be a brilliant drive to his Delta win there. A superb drive at that. Matthew Shepka takes 14th ahead of Michael Polasek. Swirydowicz originally took the 2nd place spot in the Delta class with 17th overall. And Corey Lobner completed what was in the end your Delta podium there. The 41 drive making amends for what was a difficult race number 1. Carl Trost, and it'll be Tyler Langenberg who takes his first Delta top 5 of his career with 21st overall. Fend off Lewis Gilbert to the finish line. We've got a couple more drives to make the way through. including none other than Gareth McAllister, who comes home in 29th place, just ahead of Crystal Ondra, and Ondra's had such a frustrating day today, it's got to be said. Thomas Fancock takes 31st, and Jason Lynn finished a lap down, as did Nicholas Shvedska, as we do see here the priority in the 250 for Shvedska Racing, makes his way through the last couple of quarters, and well, today, not the happiest days for him. Race number 1, definitely one of those ones where he had to dig in and find his feet, but in the Hyundai Veloster, race number 2 was his undoing, but still he does get it home in the end, and well done to him for doing so. And we did have 2 laps down to Tyler Long. It went wrong for him right towards the very end of the race. We didn't quite see what happened, but Long was out of it. And Zach Hidalgo as well, one of the casualties right at the start of the race as we understand it. So definitely a challenging time for several drivers out there. But as our drivers cool on down, well, for Pennzoil Super Touring, this is going to feel very special for Cooper Akers. It's a brilliant drive, and in terms of when it stands in the number of wins he's had in class and his results, as we do just double check that. Well, for Cooper Akers, this result, this second place, it is going to be his best finish overall in his career, beating his previous 6th place finish in round 3 of season 16 at the Yokoyama International Circuit, and it will be his second class win. Of course, he took his first ever class win in Gamma at the start of this season at the Detroit Grand Prix at Belle Isle Circuit in Gamma, and now he has 2 Gamma wins to his name. Well done to Cooper Akers for that. He'll be absolutely ecstatic about it, and Libold providing the perfect defense as the number 2 in that running order. But as drivers coming down to the pit lane, let's take a look at those race results, ladies and gentlemen, subject, of course, to any stewards' inquiries, and here they are. And well, it may have been a bit of a mouthful to say that it was the 55th win of his career for Wojciech Swirydowicz, but thus it was, and he makes it back-to-back wins today. Not an easy task, particularly at such a challenging circuit as Barber Motorsports Park, but Wojciech Swirydowicz able to take both sprint race wins, and it means he will be landing the maximum 208 points. Well, in fact, no, it won't be 208 points. They don't get bonus points for the victory in the Alpha class. It'll be the maximum 200 points. And, well, if he has been able to take the fastest laps in the race, he'll be also picking up some bonus points along the way. But either way, bonus points or not, 2 wins back-to-back for Wojciech Swirydowicz, and in the end, 10.1 seconds clear of Cooper Akers. The Beaver and D's drive was unstoppable, but Pennzoil Super Touring, well, they knew what they were going for in what was race number 1, in the fact they wanted to guarantee the double front row slot, and they were able to guarantee it with 14th and 15th, and Cooper Akers in the end bringing home the Gamma win, his second of his career, ahead of Zachary Leopold, who, for whom, another win in the Gamma class will come at some point, but the Pennzoil Super Touring driver at least day, making sure he was number 2, and a double podium for them. But from the top 3 overall, Franz Washington took full place for Kirby Enthusiasm Autosport, chased down that podium, but in the end had to defend hard, as Mike Almeida was all over the back of him like a bad rash. The Yellow Flag Motorsport driver completing the Gamma podium ahead of Matthew Meilleur, and the Eshot G driver in the end ahead of Micah Hendricks of Crop Promotions, and it was a further 8 attempts back to Ian Bertolucci, who fought hard and was able to keep his sim racing grid teammate Dan McFarlane behind, although both in the end definitely fighting what was Hendricks, but Hendricks getting the upper hand at the pair of them, coming all the way through, of course, from 37th on the starting order. What a drive from him. There was Chris McDonald in 10th place for Crop Promotions, and, well, not quite able to get into the fight for what was the top 5 spots in the Gamma class until the very end, but a bit too late in the day. But Ray Tieu, a length there, best of the rest of Beaver and D's, but solid points still coming his way. Major Monsoy was 12th for TC Racing Summit, ahead of Evan Clavio, your Delta class winner. So Kurt Smith took the first win of the day in race number 1, and Clavio took the win in race number 2. And in terms of when it stands on the statistics for Evan Clavio, I do believe this is going to be another victory in the Delta class coming his way. We just double check on that, and it is going to be his 14th class win of his career. His last one, of course, back in season 16, round 2 at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and well, it doesn't quite match to his best overall finish, which was a 2nd place all the way back in season 14 at Thruxton, but still for Clavio, a Delta win is a Delta win for the sim racing grid driver, as he will tell you. Matthew Shepka took 14th there for Sia, just ahead of Michael Polasek and the Yellow Flag Motorsport driver, after that shunt towards the very end of the race with John Lauzon, losing out quite considerably, and, well, definitely today showing that even Polasek can make mistakes. John Daniels took 16th for T0 Racing Summit ahead of Fuad Al Ridgely, who was your run-up in the Delta class. The Eshot G driver will be pleased with that, given the way race 1 went. And then Damon Mitchell for Crop Promotions. He definitely found himself sent down the order for the opening couple of quarters, but he did manage to stabilise the rot and take home 18th place. And Corey Lobner was able to make his way onto the Delta podium, the privateer, 1 second ahead of Carl Trost at the finish line for T0 Racing Ascent. And it was a better race too for Trost, no doubt about that. And then on his debut, he may have had a decent race in race number 1, but it was a top 5, his first Delta top 5 for Tyler Langenberg, the privateer, in race number 2, a 21st overall. Well done to him. He managed to hold off Lewis Gilbert right to the very end, with the Gator Racing driver making a mistake and reopening the gap that he'd carved down. Fleet Smith, a very unfortunate second race of the day for him, the B4D's driver, not able to make it what would have been potentially his second Gamma win of his career, and in the end having to settle down and accept what was in the end 23rd place. Mark Darnell, 24th ahead of Mitchell Richmeyer, and then we did see Austin Dunbar holding off Zachary Bowman by only 7 tenths at line, and then Logan McKinzie, 28th there for Pennzoil Super Touring, was tripped to the grass, not rewarded comfortably, and Gareth McAllister and Christoph Onder completing the top 30. Thomas Fancock and Jason Lin completed those on the lead lap, down to 32nd place inclusive, and behind the Gator Racing driver, a lap down it was Shredsker Racing's Nicholas Shredsker. 2 laps down, it was Tyler Long for TC Racing Ascent. 3 laps down, it was John Lauzon for Beaver and D's. And we did have the early retirement of Zach Hodako for TC Racing Ascent, although we're not quite sure what happened to him. And unfortunately, we did lose Kurt Smith on the open lap for B4Ds. And that explains the story, ladies and gentlemen, of race number 2. Of course, all these results subject to any Stewards inquiries. But as the circuit goes silent, what a return it has been to the Barber Motorsports Park after its resurfacing. And we've been absolutely pleased to take it on. I suspect it's going to become a recurring circuit once again in the AlphaTauri Challenge calendar. But at least now we're going to be packing up our bags from the US state of Alabama and moving forward. And well, Alabama, of course, indeed many of the southern states in the US of A, may have a reputation for what is keeping your family close. But when it comes to motorsport in Alabama, keep the touring cars even closer and keep your rivals very close, as they do say. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, well, let's wrap up our racing and indeed today's broadcast here from round number 4. As we can see, a big thank you for watching. Of course, if you've enjoyed today's broadcast and you're sat there right now wanting to know more about the AlphaTauri Challenge, we definitely recommend you check out the official website at alphatouringchallenge.com. Now, the website, which you do see on screen, is a complete compendium of all things ATC, whether it be well, it's just knowing a little bit of background on the series, the rule changes, the rule set, if you're looking to get on the grid, how you register. But of course, if you're looking to be a bit more of a historical anorak, you've got full access to every single broadcast that's ever been done, every single replay file, all the statistics, and of course the full series history, and the Hall of Famers as well. You could not ask for a more complete compendium when it comes to AlphaTauri Challenge, and we even do have hyperlinks on here to our merchandise shop if you're looking to get yourself a mug or something else. But indeed, an easy to navigate website, and if you do want to get on the grid, do make sure you head to the website and get on the grid, because you won't find a finer touring car racing series based out of North America, but indeed open to anybody around the globe. But at this point, we'd also like to say a big thank you to our series partners, who do include none other than what is firstly Syncmesh. And well, if you want to know a little bit more about Syncmesh, well, as we do like to say, born out of the pursuit of one man's search for better gear for sim racing, Syncmesh is the company which provides purpose-built gear for sim racing, ranging from gloves through to full line of performance wear. With an obsessive attention to detail in their gear, which aligns with your attention to detail in nailing lap after lap on the simulator, you cannot ask for better gear to make your racing experience better. So if you'd like to know more, head to sync-mesh.com today, and we can promise you won't be disappointed. We'd also like to take a moment to say a big shout out to our other series partner of Glass and Steel Photography and Designs Machinery and VD. Well, in fact, let me restart that. We'd like to give another shout out to Glass and Steel Photography and Design, because the AlphaTauri Challenge official photographer, Jason Lin, is a highly talented and approachable individual who provides both photography and livery design services for the iRacing simulator platform. This will be in part of Glass and Steel Photography and Design. But do not just take our word for it, with 5-star reviews from his clientele citing them as easy to work with, detail orientated, and a very fast responder. If you're looking for pixel precise photography or a livery design to dominate the competition, then why not head to his website at glassnsteel1.wordpress.com today. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we've got time for today. But fret not, because coming up in a week's time, we continue the story of the season by making our way all the way to the west coast state of California, and it will be for the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach that will see our drivers take on downtown Long Beach under the palm trees and roar the way past the coastline. That'll be round number 5. An endurance race will be on the cards, and that will be all brought to you as if it were live on Tuesday the 19th of May 2026, with the racing occurring the day before on Monday the 18th of May. And what exactly have we had to see today here at the Barber Motorsports Park? Well, firstly, overall in the Alpha Championship, we've seen Wojciech Swirydowicz make it back-to-back sprint wins. It's been a long time since we've seen a driver do that, and therefore Swirydowicz picking up a huge haul of points, and it will propel him forward at the top of the championship table. In the Gamma class, meanwhile, there's been plenty of batting, no doubt about it, with the wins split between Cooper Akers and Fleet Smith. But we are seeing more and more the Gamma class is really open when it comes to who could be leading the way, and I suspect it will all be shuffled the next time we go racing. And as for the Delta class, Haas, well, again, a very similar situation whereby 2 different Delta winners, but also newcomer in Tyler Langenberg looking rather impressive. And also we've got to see Corey Lobner and Fred Alrigi right back on the podium once again. So it could all be changing store next time as we make our way to Long Beach, and you won't want to miss a second of all the racing action that follows. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, we have been the AlphaTauri Change, and I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh. You've been tuning into a Paul Walsh production, and until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and as always, most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.